Here we go, brilliant new day, and of course, presenting to you the finest on morning television. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and she is...
And I'm Benjamin Akakpo, and it's my pleasure, and I know it's Benjamin's pleasure, although we seem like we're tired.
We seem like we're tired?
Oh, yeah.
I just told you my story from yesterday. We are brutally tired.
But we love this.
Exactly. We come and do this because we love you, and without you, we're nothing. So welcome aboard the second day of the week. It's Tuesday, and we're here to serve you the finest of morning television. So what can you expect? Well, coming up this morning shortly, the news followed by the news review, and we'll be joined by Dr. Wisdom Dogbe. He is a financial analyst, after which we'll bring you sports. But then we get into our big story, Sweetie.
Now, in our big stories today, Parliament's Committee on Mines and Energy has directed the Electricity Company of Ghana to issue with immediacy a load-shedding timetable for the ongoing power outages. This directive was arrived after all key players in the value chain in the power sector were summoned by the committee to comprehensively address the erratic power situation currently witnessed across the country. So we'll discuss the emerging issues from the stakeholder meetings and what are the key highlights that are relevant to you.
Well, look forward to that conversation, definitely. I will be excited getting into that, cutting it slice by slice like an onion. But after that, we'll also look at the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu launching her vision for justice delivery in Ghana, dubbed Leading Justice. This was yesterday. Now, among other things, she talks about her readiness to fight corruption in the judiciary. Remember number 12? So the training of staff to acquire paralegal knowledge is also on her radar so they can deliver the right services at the courts, as well as increasing the budgetary allocation of the judiciary. We'll be analyzing some of these highlights from her statements. You want to stay with us for these conversations and share your thoughts with us as well via the live stream and when we activate the phone lines. But up next now, we have your very own Sweetie with the news. Up next.
Let's get into that, guys. Welcome to the AM show. Welcome to the AM News. The details now. 266 containers fully loaded with antiretroviral drugs, insecticide-treated nets, rapid diagnostic test kits, cartridges and others remain exposed to the weather at Tema Port for over a year as the government expects donors to cover the $3.6 million clearance cost. Now, according to the CSOs, the delay in clearing the much-needed health commodities severely impacts healthcare delivery in the country. Speaking at a press conference, spokesperson for the group and president of the Ghana HIV and AIDS Network, Ernest Amwabing Otsim, emphasized that a major health disaster looms if the government does not immediately order the clearance of the goods.
We, the leadership of the coalition of CSO networks in HIV, TB, and malaria, wish to bring to the attention of the media and the general public our intention to present a petition to the presidency and parliament on the continued lockup of Global Fund donated health commodities at Tema Port. The commodities in reference, valued at more than $40 million, have been wasting away at the port since May 2023. They comprise antiretrovirals for treatment of HIV, medications for treatment of TB, ACTs for treatment of malaria, insecticide-treated nets, rapid diagnostic test kits, and gene expert cartridges, among others. The situation has currently created stockouts in health facilities across the country, leading to needless loss of lives and frustration for health workers. The essence of our intended action, therefore, is to draw the attention of the presidency and parliament to the looming public health emergency if no immediate actions are taken on the matter. As we speak, we are not sure of the storage conditions of the commodities. We are not sure whether these delicate commodities are being sheltered under the right temperatures or they are being exposed to the vagaries of the weather. Our greatest fears are that if no action is taken now, by the time the medications are cleared, some may have expired or may no longer be safe for human consumption.
Blamed the government for its insistence on a donor global fund paying the levies and port charges amounting to some $3.6 million as a reason for the delay in clearing the much-needed drugs. However, the CSOs have revealed plans to stage a major protest on April 17th to draw attention from the presidency and parliament to avert the impending health catastrophe.
According to government, the required amount in taxes and levies and port charges for the clearance of the commodities will be $3.6 million. The Global Fund raised concerns about this amount and reminded government that as part of the framework agreement between the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, and the Global Fund, they are not supposed to pay taxes and levies to commodities they donate freely to the country. They also pointed out their relations with other countries where they do not pay such levies and taxes. Regrettably, government insisted on the payment, and this is what led to the deadlock in the clearance process, which has festered to date. In view of the above, we, the leadership of CSO networks, whose area of operations mainly focus on HIV and AIDS and malaria and TB, plan to stage a mass public demonstration to present a petition to the presidency and parliament for immediate action on these two critical issues.
Chief Executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Dacosta Aboagye, has unveiled an ambitious plan to ensure that every Ghanaian receives at least one annual medical checkup. The initiative is part of his vision to address the country's existing health threats and proactively identify potential risk, ultimately fostering a healthier population nationwide. In a yet-to-be-aired interview with Joy News' Raymond Akwa, Dr. Dacosta Aboagye announced that Ghanaians who are not yet registered under the scheme will be captured when they visit to the hospital for their checkup.
When I was in the Ghana Health Service, we started with what we call the wellness centers, okay? So the holistic assessment of the Ghana Health Service now assesses the wellness centers in the various hospitals. Mm-hmm. At least we want all the district hospitals to have the wellness clinics. But my proposal will not really need the wellness clinic, but it is part of, because that's a broader something that we talk of, because it will be different packages within. Then we secured funding from UPSA, a project called Accelerating Social and Behavior Change Project, that's about $15 million for a pilot under our network of practice, which is currently being implemented by the Ghana Health Service. But that was just to be a pilot. But under the promotive preventive benefit package, I have singled out just one important thing that the nation needs, the medical check. And I'm saying that it doesn't take much to obviously do that. So whether you are sick or not, I'm giving you the opportunity to go to the medical, to go to hospital settings and just have your vitals checked. We will send you a text message. When it's because we have the data, so we'll send you a text message. We have our membership, so we'll send you a text message to remind you. Just go to any health facility and check your vitals under that benefit package. Now, under what we call the Ottawa Charter, okay, point 5 says that we should reorient health services towards prevention is better than cure. The Ottawa Charter started in 1978, okay? Advanced countries, they've been doing it. The lower middle countries, we've not been doing it. So I'm saying that Ghana, we are starting.
I'm asking whether you are targeting every Ghanaian or just those 57 or more. This is 2022. I don't know the 2023 figure.
So I'm targeting every Ghanaian. In any way, every Ghanaian do pay for the NHIS by indirect tax. Yes. So what I'm just saying, and it will help us to even boost our membership anyway. it will help us to boost our membership. So the fact of the matter is, because every Ghanaian pays for it, we need to also address the equity component.
Now, be on the lookout. The full interview airs on Upfront on the Joy News channel on Wednesday. Now, moving on to other stories on healthcare improvement. Geoscientists and healthcare practitioners the Dean of the School of Geoscience at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Professor Emmanuel Ahin, is advocating for a partnership between geoscientists and healthcare practitioners that would lead to safeguarding the health and well-being of communities. Speaking at the World Geoscientists and Geologists Day at Doma in the Bono region, Professor Ahin said such interdisciplinary collaboration holds the potential to revolutionize preventive healthcare in Ghana by taking advantage of the knowledge and research from geosciences. Precious Semevo has more.
The celebration of World Geoscientists Day at the Doma campus of the University of Energy and Natural Resources was marked by an exhibition and a lecture on the theme, Geoscience, a key entity in addressing preventive health in Ghana. Various speakers expressed worry about the inability to embrace the knowledge and research of geoscientists, the study of the earth and its processes, to mitigate environmental, health and other concerns of the country. Chrysler Akwe Ankra is the president of the Ghana Institute of Geosciences.
We went to school to study the earth, its compositions, and also how it's being formed and the principles that governs its formation. By so doing, we know some of the intricate composition, be it the mineralogy, the minerals that are in it, and those minerals that can also have negative impact on our health, especially when they cross certain threshold, when we become overexposed, and then the medical science can then bring on board some of their knowledge in helping to deal with it or helping to mitigate the negative impact that it will attempt to cause.
Speaking on the topic, origins of emerging non-communicable diseases, the concealed perils to public health, the Dean of School of Geosciences, UNE, Professor Emmanuel Ahin, said a partnership between geoscientists and healthcare practitioners is the right way to attain better healthcare.
What we are not doing right is that we are not involving all disciplines that have something to contribute as far as our health is concerned. That is why I am propagating this message that it's time, it's long overdue. There should be a partnership between geoscientists and the health practitioners. So this meeting that we're having here today is to talk about possible consortium which will be formed so that together we will address this problem. We know that the people who have degrees in public health don't know anything about geology. So we will let them have some top up here, and then together with their public health knowledge, we will address this problem.
Former Health Minister and MP for Doma Central, Kwadwo Poku, envisaged the Ghanaian economy and beyond would also benefit from the research work of Ghanaian students.
I believe that this is time for us to collaborate to see how we can utilize and make good use of research findings in our country. And I want to believe that one day we should also benefit from students' projects in Ghana, in the Ghanaian economy as well, so that we can also go out there and market what we have in our system.
Precious Semevo, Joy News, Doma.
Now, the median of roads should ideally be a green space, landscaped with flowers, trees, and beautiful plants. But that is not the case on the Medina Highway. Looking dry and dusty, these medians are now being used as a transit spot by waste collectors. On Filth exhibition today, Hannah Odame tells us what she saw when she drove on that stretch. Take a look.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's the number of heaps of rubbish on display in between the highways on the Medina Zongo stretch at the La in Kwantanan district in the national capital. Pedestrians call this an eyesore, especially for a city which yearns to be the cleanest in Africa.
It's very, 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 very abhorrent.
they have to charge those who are around too. Yeah, you are sitting here selling, and after that you go and put garbage here. It's not nice. Those should change their attitude.
Those who make, gather and dump the rubbish in between the roads say it is the assembly which has not been responsible in collecting the rubbish.
The waste collectors don't come to pick the rubbish, and so this place is always filthy and smelling. The entire stretch is filled with rubbish. Why? This leads to cholera and malaria. Government should pay the collectors so they can do their work. I dare ask, is this the country we say will be the cleanest in Africa soon?
Also contesting are some of the traders who sell along the highway and are being blamed for generating such filth and not dumping them in designated bins.
When we close from work, we collect all the rubbish we make. We always sweep our working areas, especially when we close. And the waste collectors come for the rubbish every morning, but today they are late.
Fed up with the constant spectacle of rubbish littered all over the stretch, this regular user of the road proposes a solution.
You see, the rubbish is not from the Togo people, it's not from Burkina Faso, it's not from Cote d'Ivoire, it's from the Ghanaians. The ordinary man who is walking on the street, you see, you come and pick it today, tomorrow when you come and meet it again. So now what are you going to do? So this one, me, I don't put blame on the Zoom Lion, because the Zoom Lion, now no place they're supposed to put the dustbins. So they will tell the people, you put it on the middle of the road, so after another day they will come and pick it. So we will talk. Government will go, government will come, government will go, government will come. We are in the same problem.
Frustrated about the regular sight of rubbish, this road user also struggles to recommend to joiners a lasting solution he believes would help keep the city clean.
I don't know. We too, we are the cause, you see, so at least the assembly should at least give us a lot of these bins, rubbish bins, so that if anything, we can dump inside, instead of putting it on the ground.
From Medina, here in Accra, I am Hannah Odami for Joy News.
And that's our latest episode on our series, Filth Exhibition. To other stories now. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has declared that government has removed all ghost names from the public payroll system. His announcement comes 2 months after the Controller and Accountant General, Kwesi Kwenin Bosompim, made similar declaration at the 2024 Controller and Accountant General's Department Annual Conference in Kumasi, in the Ashanti region. Speaking at the Chief Justice's Leading Justices Forum in Accra, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, touted the contribution of the Ghana card system to the eradication of ghost names from the payroll and how much the move has saved the country.
We've also seen through digitalization that you can deal with corruption. We have now eliminated ghost workers at the Controller and Accountant General's office just by using the Ghana card, because the ghosts don't have fingerprints, and we have therefore been able to eliminate them. This has saved, for example, SNIT 480 million Ghana cedis by eliminating 29,000 ghost pensioners, and National Service by eliminating 44,000 workers has saved over 356 million Ghana cedis. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Ladies and gentlemen, let me use this opportunity to encourage all the key players in the justice delivery value chain, and indeed all of us gathered here today, to give every support that we can to support this vision of the Chief Justice so it can deliver on its goals and target to the benefit of our country. As a government, we shall continue to do more for the judicial service to ramp up the e-justice system to other levels of the court and beyond the high courts in Accra.
Their core function is to make laws for the country and represent the interests of their constituents. But that has expanded into other areas such as attending funerals, paying medical and school fees, and many others. However, some members of parliament say this additional workload is taking a toll on them financially and health-wise, with some saying that the job is becoming increasingly stressful. Some weeks ago, there was a discussion on the floor on Parliament about how MPs can maintain a better quality of life during their tenure and after they finish serving. Zuleha Nuhu has more in this report read to you.
Mr. Speaker, at the time, Professor Michael Quay, as chair of the board, needed to help a former MP with 12,000 Ghana cedis. And this MP was requesting to do a surgery, a prostate surgery. I want to keep the name because...
It's a typical day in Parliament, where members of Parliament passionately debate matters concerning their constituents. However, today's focus shifts inward as concerns about the health of MPs take center stage. Tamale South MP and former minority leader Haruna Idrisu had raised concerns on the floor of the House about the quality of health of former members of Parliament and incumbent members of Parliament.
The Honorable Muntaka is saying, I know we've tried at the board that even the medical facility in Parliament should be made open and free to former members of Parliament.
Asawase MP Muntaka Mubarak emphasized the urgent need to address the health challenges encountered by members of Parliament both during and after their terms of service. Outside the parliamentary chamber, MPs reflect on the toll their work takes on their well-being. In Shayeso MP, Stephen Amwa means no words as he said the work is stressful.
Honestly speaking, I think the word stress is even an understatement. It's extremely stressful, extremely, very, very stressful. And it's stressful because of what it entails. The work is extremely cumbersome because you need to work here. You need to attend to your constituents and then even Ghana at large. And now they are shifting almost everything about the country to MP. So I think even it moves beyond the core functions of a parliamentarian. If somebody has any issue, being social, being developmental, being economical, being financial, they call the MP. So it's getting too tedious. Because I was talking to a couple of my colleague MPs, and I was telling them that at least every year they should check like twice. Because I was trying to recommend a particular doctor specialist to them. But I think the issue about stress is very, very important. It has to be an integral part of whatever we are doing here. And it's good that you guys have started this. It's very, very important. You've done well. I think you're on point because I think most of us here don't really have time for our health. That is what I think.
Pusiga MP Ladi Ayamba highlighted that the health and financial stability of MPs are significantly impacted by their responsibilities.
Very, very, very stressful. Very stressful. We have personal issues. We have community issues. We have religious issues. We have constituency at large issues. You have people who will come to you about ill health. And they come to you with all sincerity that you have to help them. You have nowhere to turn to, nobody to give you. The unfortunate and the painful aspect is that people rather tend to always be talking about common fund, MPs common fund, MPs common fund. This thing is supposed to come quarterly. So people come about health, people come about education, that is school fees. Others come about even marriage. Person wants to marry and comes to you as an MP that you should help or support that person, him or her, to marry. Both men and women, or boys and girls, they do.
Bolebamboy MP Yusuf Sulemana echoed the same sentiments, indicating that the overwhelming responsibilities of MPs have a profound effect on their health.
Let me admit that indeed my work is very stressful. You have three major constituencies to look at. One, you want to serve the interests of your constituency. In that regard, whether the person is MPP, the person is NDC, that's not the issue. Your concern is how do you ensure that your people feel your impacts, having selected you to come and represent them here. Then, of course, it is your party that brought you to Parliament. So that's another constituency out of the larger constituency that you have to also give some special attention to. And it also comes with this stress. Before you now come to the House, Parliament here, a lot of things to read, a lot of things to learn. And sometimes for me, wherever I find myself in any hospital facility, I try to take the basic, do the basic checks. And so you see me taking my blood pressure, you see me taking my temperature and all of that. But I try as much as possible to do twice in a year. And as I age, I think that I should be able to increase the number of times I've been do checkups.
Executive Director of ASEPA, Dr. Rashid Rahman, says government's intervention is necessary to address the health challenges faced by incumbent and former MPs.
Called Honorable Olu Aringo. He's a known reformist in Kenya, and he led the Parliamentary Service Commission in Kenya many years ago to go through a lot of reforms. And today, members of Parliament in Kenya are one of the best catered for parliamentarians in the world in terms of their financial kind of well-being. And I believe that that is the number one. I mean, if you ask them as human beings, apart from being about, first of all, the pension or whatever end of service benefits that they should be entitled to. If we take away that business of, collateralizing their pension against the vehicles that they use for their official work, I think that would be a big first step. I think the second one, and this is my advice to former MPs, in this country, once an MP or once a politician, people always want to live at that level of lifestyle. If you are a teacher and you go into Parliament, tomorrow when you leave Parliament, you should go back and do your teaching job. You have a profession. But most of them, once they leave Parliament, they want to live the life of a politician. Apart from the fact that maybe financially they will be better off, I think even your state of mind, when you sit at home and you are not doing anything, it affects your health significantly. The Speaker of Parliament was quoted as saying that when MPs leave Parliament, 3 years later they die. But the point she was making at the time, because she was somebody that we work with very closely, was the fact that she was trying to bring something to Parliament that would help prepare members of Parliament, a program that would help prepare members of Parliament for life after Parliament. So maybe give those who don't have proper careers, try to orient them, try to help them develop some careers and so on. In our Parliament, we don't have anything like that. So things like that could help significantly, so that, whilst you are there, you have 4 years. Some are lucky to get maybe 8 years or more. If there are some kind of avenues, some mechanisms to prepare them for life after Parliament, even psychologically, even getting professional counselors to come and speak to them about things that they can do after Parliament. I think that can significantly help. Otherwise, I know their conditions. Sometimes some of them cannot even afford fuel, for their vehicles. Because if you don't have a job, you don't have a pension.
Well, that's how we're wrapping up for the AM News right here on the AM Show. Thanks for staying with us. Up next is the news review.
That's time now for us to zoom into the news review. And right before I give you our guest for the morning, End Point Homeopathic Clinic helping us bring you this segment as always, Monday to Friday. And if you're a man, they're saying, come to them. They'll offer you prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, come to them and they'll offer you fertility screening completely gratis. You'll not pay anything. Just reach out to them at any of their branches. If you're here in Accra, you can head to Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. You can go to Kumasi, Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Then Takrade, Anaji Estates, Tema Community 22, Techiman, Hanswa, and Esiaman Zima. Their call lines is 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. End Point Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But time now for the news review, and joining us, Dr. Wisdom K. Dogbe. He is a financial analyst. He joins the conversation this morning. Doc, good morning. You would have to unmute, Doc. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
I can now hear you. I hope you've been well.
Good morning. I've been doing well.
Great. So we're a little behind time, so let's make the most of the time that is left. Before we get into the newspapers, like I always do, I'm going to give you the opportunity of sharing your thoughts on anything that you'd like to talk about. Not more than 2 minutes. Over to you, Doc.
Ben, I have heard about KPMG presenting their audit findings on the SML deal to the president on April 3rd. It took a minute, but thank God the audit was finally concluded and a report was issued. But I would like to state that in as much as the president is the one who ordered for the audit to be conducted, this is a matter of national importance, and the report should be made available to the public without undue delays. Yes, I understand that those cited in the report should be given time to respond, but it has to be released quickly as a matter of priority. It's not everything that should be a political issue, right? This one in particular, this SML deal, it should be viewed by Ghanaians as a matter of national importance, because how the resources of the nation are deployed should go beyond politics. It's easy to point to the general report and how that was released in full to the public. And again, without being political, we can use that as a precedent to how some of these audit reports are released to the public. Again, I understand that the presidency is studying the audit findings, but we need to balance that with the public interest and why the report should be shown to the people of Ghana quickly to bring some closure. First of all, a lot of Ghanaians hold the view that this contract was shady, right? And a shot in the foot by the government. The people believe that there's really no value generation by SML to warrant the size of this contract to them in terms of the finance aspect of this. And so with this public perception in mind, the presidency must first consider transparency as they go through the decision to release this report to the public. I think that should the presidency make the audit report available immediately, it will promote transparency in the way the public views some of these contracts and how they are awarded. And our people will better understand how our public limited resources are being allocated and what are the appropriate due diligence is being conducted before contracts are awarded. Then also, I think about the need for accountability, Ben. We as a nation, we should get to a point where we demand at least some form of accountability from our elected leaders and those we entrust with our national resources, right? So I am of the view that should the president quickly make the audit report available, that would ensure that government agencies and other stakeholders involved in public contracts, all of these entities are held accountable for their actions. And then it's also quite important to know that prompt release of this can help prevent more corruption, which could be widespread than the Fourth Estate revealed in their investigations.
Well, interesting dynamics in there. Yesterday, I had an interaction with Dr. Daniel Yao Domelevo, former Auditor General, and he said that, look, I mean, when it comes to corruption and all of that, it stinks to the high heavens. But in this specific case, the more you hold on to some of these reports, the more you create certain impressions, whether false or true, that something nefarious may be happening in the background. So some of us are wondering. We called for a report. In fact, we wanted a report. Parliament wanted to do its own thing. Other entities as well. The president said the KPMG should do it. Parliament said it will still go ahead. There were questions raised. KPMG now submits because in the end, KPMG's image, its own image, was also coming into because people felt, but GRA is involved in all of this. And the KPMG is the GRA is one of KPMG's biggest clients. So a bit of some were suggesting conflict of interest. Now that it is done, they've done their professional job. If we can't know what the details are, if it takes too long, then of course you begin to wonder, what is in there? Is it distasteful to the administration? Is that why they are floundering, failing, stalling in terms of releasing this? No one knows, and no one is saying categorically that it is X or Y, but in the end, we want to know. The Ghanaian population has become very, I wouldn't say risk averse, but information conscious. And we want to know. We deserve to know. We deserve to know. Anyway,
just 10 seconds more on that, if you don't mind. I think that the president also has a unique opportunity in this matter, right, to help restore public confidence and trust by quickly releasing the report. As to whether the president will be in a hurry to grab this opportunity or not, your guess is as good as mine. Anyway,
since I don't know how to ask this, but what do you know about the power situation in town, especially as you've been? Yeah, I don't want to state categorically, but what do you know about the power situation in town?
It's amazing, right? Our current administration campaign on this is doomed, so that's how you should call it. It is what it is. We campaign on this, and I think that, Ben, the population is growing, but I don't think that a lot is going into planning for our utilities to stay in sync with the population growth. So a lot of the times our leaders come and they make promises, they use the situation for political gain, and they come into office, and it's the same situation, right? I've had to experience a lot of power outages in just the 1 week that I've been here so far. It's just unbelievable.
Well, you know, so many things happening, people operating printing presses, cold stores, and the rest. When I went to the makeup department this morning, I spoke to a colleague whose name I will not mention, who's on another morning show. And the person said she had had a torrid night, you know, couldn't sleep. And in fact, she was having a little bit of a breakout on her forehead because just like me, she has a very low tolerance for heat. Sometimes when mine goes off, I have to have a bath and all of that, and I'll still be perspiring like nobody's business. Some of us maybe suffer from some form of hyperhidrosis. But the long and short of it is, another person said, oh, as for her neighborhood, they don't get too many power outages. And I asked her, which neighborhood? And she mentioned Awudome. And I said, well, it makes sense. Maybe they're afraid of the ghosts. But anyway, that's just by the by. Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. GRA Commissioner General intervenes. First batch HIV drugs out Friday. Effective justice delivery strategy launched. Framework anchored on tech, speed, transparency. The Chief Justice has been speaking on that, Gertrude Tokonu, in respect of leading the way. I'll tell you a bit about that. Greater Accra RCC endorses GCGL, ZGL sanitation ranking. And the big one, voters registration May 7 to 27, SAL included in exercise. I'm talking about Santo Kofi, Akpafu, Lulubi, and Dikpe. Finally, it's coming home. On the back page, Ghana, Burkina Faso to resolve distorted boundaries in Upper East region, and Zango youth admonished to refrain from violent acts. One of the few times that you actually see the word spelled Zango instead of Zongo. Zango is actually the correct thing. So kudos to the Daily Graphic. And I'll just start from there. So the youth, particularly Muslims, have been admonished to refrain from acts that tarnish the image of the religion and put it into disrepute. The Wenchi Municipal Deputy Chief Imam Alhaj Umar Suala, who gave the admonishment, noted that the youth and the Zangos have often been used to cause disturbances, especially during electioneering campaigns, making people associate the religion with violence. He was speaking in an interview with the Ghana News Agency after some Muslim leaders offered prayers for Dr. Kwadwo Poku, the Minister of Energy, to be chosen as the new Patriotic Party running mate for the 2024 presidential election in December at Wenchi in the Bono region. Anyway, let me quickly sidestep that and move on. Now, all is set for this year's voters' registration exercise to be conducted across the country from May 7 to May 27, 2024. The exercise, slated for all 268 offices of the Electoral Commission, including Santro Kofi Akpafu, Lolobi, and Likpe in the Guan constituency in the Oti region, ranks high among some pertinent issues to be discussed when the EC engages the Inter-Party Advisory Committee in a crunch meeting in Accra today. Now, the voters' registration will be followed by another nationwide exercise to replace missing voter ID cards from May the 30th, 2024. Now, again, a highly placed source at the EC told the Daily Graphic that apart from the EC's district offices, 775 registration centers will be opened in distant and riverine areas to be handled by registration mobile teams. In addition, there will be registration centers in 25 public universities in the country. However, no registration centers will be opened in senior high schools. That will not happen. And then the EC's calendar of activities for the 2024 general election indicates that it will receive nominations of candidates for this year's presidential and parliamentary elections from September 9 to 13 to signal the final countdown towards the climax of the political season. You can get the rest of the details in the Daily Graphic newspaper. But looking at the timelines, looking at what the EC is saying, it's trying to open up so that many more people can get registered, especially on the back of the experiences from the district level elections and registration. Quick thoughts?
But I think that the voters' registration exercise is of utmost importance in the nation's democratic process. And yes, I heard that Sancho Kofi, Akpafu, Likpe, and Lolobi, all of these areas were sometime, I believe, disenfranchised. So I think it is the right step to include them in the voters' registration exercise. That is very good to know. That said, I hope that there will be some sensitization initiatives to drive our participation, right? This is how the citizens can exercise their franchise in selecting their leaders. So they need to be aware and even supported to go and do their voters registration. Everyone is entitled to vote for as long as they are citizens of the nation and they have their voices, right? They have their voices to be heard. They must be heard. We need this inclusivity as an essential element for our representative democracy. And I expect this to be the top agenda for IPAC meeting that is scheduled today. I also believe that the registration exercise helps maintain the integrity of the electoral system. By verifying the identity and the eligibility of voters, I think it helps prevent fraud, multiple voting, and other forms of electoral malpractice. And this can help or ensure that the polls are fair and transparent and reflective of the will of the people. And I believe that the IPAC members are keen on ensuring integrity in the electoral process as well. And when you think about the accuracy of voter rolls, right, the registration exercise, it should ensure that the list of eligible voters is up to date and reflects the current population. And I believe that accurate voter rolls prevent that alienation of eligible voters and help the credibility, and the legitimacy of the electoral process. Then also, in terms of planning and resource allocation, the voter registration exercise provides that valuable data for planning then, and also resource allocation. It helps election authorities estimate the number of eligible voters in different regions, then allocate resources such as polling stations and election materials and plan effectively for the upcoming election. And I will conclude with the point that over the last few years, Ghana has done well in a smooth and peaceful transition of power, which is a hallmark of a stable democracy. And so by ensuring that the eligible voters are registered and can participate in elections, the registration exercise will contribute to that peaceful transfer of power and strengthen the democratic principles of our beloved nation.
Right. Let's quickly dive into some other stories and then take it from there. I'll send three your way. Now, the first, I'm not going to get into, but it's on page 10. Scholarship Secretariat, lessons for free SHS. And of course, there's been talk about the fact that, listen, let those who can afford pay, right? Scholarships. Why are they getting scholarships when they can afford to pay? In other jurisdictions, I mean, you get it. So in most colleges and other parts of the world, that is it. It's need-based. And some are saying that lesson should be applied to free SHS, just as it should be applied to the Scholarship Secretariat. But some have been calling for the head of the head of the Scholarship Secretariat that he should be taking on legally to answer questions. But I'll go to page 13. Two critical stories there. Effective justice delivery strategy launched, framework anchored on tech, speed, and transparency. So the Office of the Chief Justice has launched the strategic framework to guide the implementation of efficient and effective justice delivery in the country, dubbed the Leading Justice Initiative. The framework, which is the vision of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Saki-Tokonu, is anchored on the use of technology to increase speed and transparency in the justice delivery system. Now, LEAD, L-E-A-D, is an acronym for Law, Ethics, Assets, Digitalization, and Due Process. Now, the launch also saw the introduction of 12 guidelines, directions, and a manual to help in the effective disposal of cases. Just to wrap, so you can get more details from the paper as you grab it, Justice Tokonu explained that developing the strategic framework which would guide decision-making, inform operational planning and delivery, and help to measure progress would help ensure the desired change to efficient and effective justice delivery. And I'm going to end on this front. GRA Commissioner General intervenes. First batch HIV drugs out Friday. You may have heard of those drugs, critical, locked up at the ports. Now, here's the explanation. The first batch of drugs for the fight against HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria is expected to leave the Tema port by the close of the week. In all, 12 bills of lading of the pharmaceutical products donated by the Global Fund, which have been locked up at the Tema port since May last year, will leave the ports by the close of this week for onward distribution to enhance the country's fight against the three major diseases. Now, this follows the intervention of the acting Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Julia Siam, who met with the leadership of the country coordinating mechanism of the Global Fund to fight HIV, AIDS, TB, and malaria in a bid to resolve the impasse over the $45 million worth of pharmaceutical products locked up at the Tema port. Can you imagine that? The Global Fund does charity to us, gives us this to help us in our fight against HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria. And because of our own tax regime and import restrictions, it's locked up at the port. So she had to come through. She indicated that it was unfortunate that while an exemption had been granted for the products, there were outstanding liabilities for third-party clearance fees, charges, demurrage, and other penalties on the goods at the port. So three things I've thrown your way. Free SHS Scholarship Secretariat. Let it be need-based, as some people are calling. Effective justice delivery and the launch by the Chief Justice of LEAD. And then the first batch HIV drugs out Friday. Quick thoughts?
Ben, with regards to the misuse of scholarships in the nation, former Auditor General summed it up very well that we are in some trouble if the upper class among us are now classified as needy in order to be eligible for the scholarships. It's just troubling that social services and support that were implemented with the underprivileged in mind, this has now been taken over and are now being awarded to the upper class in our society instead. Someone said that the rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer. And if you think about it, the needy or underprivileged among us, they don't have a recourse when, because of corruption and nepotism, they are deprived of opportunities like this. All what the underprivileged ones they need is, or they are asking for, is a fair shot, right? A fair opportunity to succeed. And it beats my mind that anyone with...
Hello, Doc. Hello, Dr. Dogbe, can you hear me? Okay, Dr. Dogbe, I lost you briefly. I lost you for just a few seconds, so you can continue with your train of thought.
Can you still hear me?
All right, we're having some challenges.
Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Good. So I was saying that we need to have these types of corruption and nepotism situations checked, right? It is destroying the very fabric of our society. We have the needy who needs this scholarship to get a fair chance at life economically. But what we are hearing is that instead of these scholarships that need to be awarded to the needy, they are now awarded based on bribes, personal connections, or favoritism. You end up creating a situation where the deserving student is now overlooked, and the student whose parents has significant economic might, the students are awarded the scholarships unfairly. And then when you do this, how can the citizens trust the government? Trust and credibility seems to mean nothing to those behind this type of corruption. The folks should have confidence in their scholarship secretariat, right? Without losing trust in the transparency and fairness of administering these scholarship programs. And so this lack of trust, it can cause talented students not to apply because they may feel as though their efforts and achievements may not be considered for them to earn their scholarships on merit. So why bother? Also, Ben, if there is corruption and nepotism at the scholarship secretariat and the right students are not getting the necessary help, this by itself could worsen our challenge with brain drain and talent loss, especially if the scholarships are to attend school or study a course within the country.
Right.
You know, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
You know, so in that case, I think that our talented and promising citizens begin to look for higher education opportunities outside of the country. And when they leave and they don't come back, it is the nation which will lose. You know, in all of this, though, the net impact of such corruption and nepotism in the way scholarships are awarded, when the needy who should get the scholarship doesn't get it, but rather awarded to the rich kid who probably doesn't even need it. All of these further worsen the socioeconomic inequality in the country.
Right.
Students from underprivileged backgrounds who desperately need these scholarships, you know, it's just mind-boggling that they wouldn't get it and they are deprioritized, you know, in the pecking order as the scholarships are awarded. I think that is unfortunate. And so I think that government needs to seriously investigate these allegations of nepotism and corruption at the scholarship secretariat and also strengthen the control that is governing how the scholarships are administered.
Right. Let's get into other papers very quickly. We have just about 4 minutes to wrap on this. The Ghanaian Times, $40 million donated drugs are locked up at port. We've already spoken about that. Wager DVLA generates 8.6 million Ghana cedis in first quarter 2024. Chief Justice launches blueprint to transform judiciary. We've done that as well. 9 arrested for peddling fake news about genitals disappearance. This is also trending. The Ghanaian Times newspaper. And then let's unite in rejecting military takeovers, President Akufo-Addo to African leaders. I wholly support what the president says, but I also wholly support proper leadership that prevents that in the first place. You don't just go about saying, oh, let's prevent coups and all of that, which nobody wants in the first place when the right things are not being done by leaders. Eyadema, Faure Gnassingbé in Togo is tweaking things to suit himself. The president's own friend, Alassane Ouattara, has been tweaking things to suit himself. Until recently, there had to be a lot of hue and cry in Senegal before the right things were done. So the rhetoric, the talk shop, is not going to get us anywhere in Africa. I read something recently on Uganda and other African countries. It makes for very horrific reading. So let's focus on that. Daily Guide, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau to open joint commission for cooperation. SHS enrollment goes high. And then let's make Veep president. Samia Wuku, of course, who is managing the campaign of the vice president, says so. But let me just touch on the story about education. Ghana's education sector is reaching a watershed moment as the country sees unprecedented growth in senior high school enrollment. As of March 18, 2024, a total of 504,580 out of 554,033 students had been enrolled, representing 91.07%, compared to 448,803 out of 517,361 placed or qualified students. That is 86.75% in 2023. That is the story. We like to play about with numbers. It's not a bad thing, but what's the quality and what's the delivery? Quick thoughts on this, and then I'll just add one or two more thoughts and we're out.
Well, I think the free SHS policy is one of the best of this administration because it has direct and immediate impact to the bottom line or pocketbooks of parents who don't have money to pay for school fees, and so they don't have to worry about raising funds to pay this tuition for their kids. And in the long term, I believe the nation will reap the benefit thereof in a well-educated population. That said, there are challenges with this free SHS policy. It's just not a matter of how many enrolled, right? There are problems such as the struggle of some parents in affording things like school supplies and so on. What is the benefit of free education if you cannot afford the materials that you need to go through such education? Then now we're hearing that the food that the students are given, the food is also of very poor quality as well, for the most part. So I believe that the policy, like any other impactful policy, should be reviewed and changes implemented accordingly. We need to gather and leverage relevant data about the policy, right, including official documents, reports, studies, success stories of the policy. And this should be done both, on qualitative data and also leveraging quantitative data. I think that placement rate is very important because it tells us if a lot more SHS graduates are being admitted to the colleges as a result of this, but it is not itself the end goal, right? We should be able to produce more folks that are ready for the job market and not just enrollment rate.
All right. After these two that I'm going to run by you, we have to go. The New Finder newspaper, stronghold or swing region. Now, the running mate slot is now a straight fight, per the story by Elvis Dapo in Accra, between Irina Toshiado, administrator of the District Assembly's Common Fund, and Dr. Kwadwo Poku Prempeh, Energy Minister. Since the Ashanti region is the stronghold of the NPP, the expectation is that the running mate will be selected from the region, as the flag bearer is from the northern region. There are other dynamics to take stock of, but I see that the vice president, together with the NPP, they are in a very sticky spot right now when it comes to this, because I look at their options, and for me, as a political watcher, cold comfort. The Economy Times, trade surplus dips. Ghana's trade surplus has dipped significantly, recording $390 million for the first 2 months of 2024, compared to a surplus of $860 million for the comparative period of 2023. This was due to higher import growth relative to exports. Total export receipts increased by 1.6% to $2.9 billion, mainly on the back of gold and crude oil exports. And there's also government raises cocoa farm gate price by 58%, but tied to that, in the Overseer newspaper, Minority says newly announced cocoa price is a complete ripoff. You have a minute, and then we have to go.
Ben, on the part of choosing a running mate for Dr. Bawumia, I understand he's in a very sticky position, right? There are a lot of things that go into that. I think the decision of selecting the running mate is, I mentioned here before, is a matter of seriousness, especially in the current state of Ghana's economy. We desperately need some form of leadership, and maybe an act of God to steer the nation towards prosperity. So I believe that he's under pressure, but let's keep fingers crossed and see what he announces, and hopefully it will be a ticket that they will hope to break the 8 with.
Trade surplus dipping, 20 seconds on that.
I haven't looked at the data. I may need to take that away, but I will be interested to learn more about that as well.
So it's $390 million for the first 2 months of 2024, compared to a surplus of $860 million for the comparative period in 2023.
That's pure math, right? It's the basic math.
Anyway, thank you, Doc, for having joined the conversation this morning. As always, I look forward to next week. And have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
All right. That is Dr. Wisdom Dogbe. He's a financial analyst, usually joining us from some other part of the world, but today from right here in Ghana. Right before we veer into sports and bring you all the action from that front, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us bring you this segment, and they're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free, if you're a woman, fertility screening for free. All you have to do, make your way to any of their branches, a beeline to Accra Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Siamanzama. Their call lines are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. We serve you the best in sports. Up next with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi.
Good morning. Welcome to AM Sports here. I am Muftau Nabila Abdullahi, and Ghana's high jump gold medalist Evans Kadmon Yamwa. He's been speaking to us about how his destiny changed from being a footballer to a high jumper. Speaking to Joy Sports, he stated that he never wanted to get involved in high jump. However, mundane activities in school got him switched to high jump, despite an injury that one of his seniors suffered during their days in secondary school.
So, my story about high jump, like I keep telling everyone who asks me the same question. I wasn't a high jumper at first. I was a football player, and a really good football player. I started with like FC Bata Kids in Mamprobi. I played really well. I had like so many scouts coming in, trying to sign me. My mom and dad hasn't been a fan of like being in a football academy. So I went to Swedro Senior High School. I played on the basketball team, played on the soccer team. I tried volleyball. I tried handball. So it was like anything other than athletics. So I saw people high jump. And I think in my second year, I saw one of my seniors having a severe injury in the high jump. They were practicing, so he had a serious injury. And since then, it shaped my idea of high jump. I never dreamt of being a high jumper because of that injury. However, my best friend, who I gave you his number to interview, he was a high jumper for the school since we went to SHS1. And I saw him high jump. As I said, I never wanted to be a high jumper. But on one fateful afternoon after school, I was going to play soccer, and I saw them like high jumping for fun. And I was like, okay, fine. Since the soccer team is not yet ready, let me just try one, and I could go ahead and go do my soccer training. And the funny thing is, I didn't use the approach they were using. I just headed over the bar and just walked away. Then all of them came to me like, hey, did you just do that? That's the high school record that you just use your legs to clear. And I was like, I had no idea what I just did. Then I think our PE master, Mr. Nicholas, he came to me and was like, hey, where have you been all these years? And I was like, I'm still in the school. I play for the school team. And I was like, okay, we need a high jumper like you. I was like, I don't think I can do this. Then I was like, we practice every Saturday morning. So if you are interested, you could come around and just practice. Once again, I wasn't interested. So I just let go of that information. Then we had this house inspection every Saturday in high school. Yes. And that was something that I wasn't a fan of. I wasn't a dirty guy, but then I wasn't a fan of like standing for hours waiting for people to come inspect my room and all that. So I saw the high jump practice on Saturday as a perfect avenue to skip the house inspection. So whenever they were ready for house inspection, I just ran to go high jump. I wasn't the best at it, but then my coach, Coach Isaac, was like, you have potential. Even though you don't have the proper technique, I see so much potential in you, so we'll pick it from there.
And to football now, the board chairman of Accra House of Folk, Togbe Afede the 14th, says that the new board of the club is looking for $2 million to clear his debt. According to him, the club is in a debt of about 2 million Ghana cedis, and he hopes that this new board will be able to raise the money to be able to put the club in the right state to compete for the ultimate crown, which is the Ghana Premier League, and also competing at a continental level.
Oh, I'm very sure we'll get 200 million. We'll get 200 million. What extra we'll get, I can't tell. But 200 million, we'll get it. I'm very sure we'll get it. Through a combination of new cash and debt conversion. Because the whole idea is to raise money to pay debt. Okay? So conversion of debt into shares is also part of money raised. And I'm very sure we'll get the 200 million at minimum. Combination of timelines. Oh, by June ending. This year. But yeah, by June ending. We have to launch it we have to launch it during May to finish by somewhere in June. 200 million minimum, we'll get that one. Whatever we'll get additional, I don't know. But only I'm not sure about the supporters' commitment to they talk, but I'll be very, very happy if supporters will mobilize and buy. We say we have 8 million supporters. Assuming even 500,000 of them would invest, 100 cities each. 500,000 of them, 100 cities each. That's 50 million. You see what I'm saying? 200 cities each. That's 100 million. You see what I'm saying? So, and those in the diaspora, they also say they are supposed people. I hope they'll change their dollars and come.
There will be UEFA Champions League football tonight. Let's take a look at the fixtures of UEFA Champions League for tonight as the competition enters its business stage, with many of the teams seeking to be champions. Arsenal will come up against Bayern Munich at the Arsenal Stadium, and there is Real Madrid versus Manchester City. Atletico Madrid will come up against Borussia Dortmund. Paris Saint-Germain, they will play Barcelona. These are the quarter-final fixtures of the UEFA Champions League as they enter the business stage of the competition, seeking to win it. And tonight, a big one, Real Madrid versus Manchester City. That's your sports for now. We do have more sports stories on myjoyonline.com. We appreciate your time.
Welcome back on the AM show. We focus now on energy-related matters with the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament directing, basically, that the ECG has to come out with a load-shedding timetable. Of course, the PURC has already taken the lead in terms of that directive in context. But here in the studio, I'm doing this together with Sweetie Abochi, and we're going to be talking energy-related matters right here. But even before we bring in our guests, we're going to go to some slides we have put together just to break down the real situation on the ground when it comes to power and why we are where we are. Come along with me. So we take a look at the erratic power supply. What's next after the parliamentary hearings? You know that there have been crunch meetings between the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, of course, together with some of the IPPs, the VRAs, the gridcos, among others. And some of them are pointing accusing fingers or accusatory fingers at the ECG. We'll be getting you a breakdown. So this is the sum, $1.2 billion. What does this mean? It's the cost of fuel for 2024 in terms of averting a power sector crisis. This is what it will cost, $1.2 billion to avert a power crisis. Aren't we there already, though? So in terms of the energy sector debt, you're looking at the $1.6 billion being the equivalent of 2.3% of GDP. 2.3% of our GDP. And what makes an interesting reading of this, what is curious, is that in terms of unutilized energy generation capacity, Ghana, we stand at 58% of our total installed capacity not being utilized. 58%. As we go to the next slide, we'll also find out, shall we go to the next slide? Gridco, in terms of ECG's response to Gridco has been making mention of the fact that, and on numerous occasions, it has communicated with the ECG, and the ECG has failed to actually do load management. Gridco submitted 64 requests to the ECG for load management. Guess what? The ECG refused. Now, as we go to the next slide, you will also get a picture of the breakdown of notices in terms of ECG's responses to Gridco. Peak periods, the number of notices, 40. I told you about 64, right? Off-peak, 24. Total, 64 notices to the ECG. The question is why, though? We go to the next slide. Then again, you can look at the ECG's response to GridCo in terms of a breakdown of notices. 88% of those notices, 35 in number, came within 1 hour. That is before the peak period. And 5 of those notices came 2 to 3 hours before time. So the total, 40 notices within this bracket. We'll bring you more on this shortly, but let me come into the studio now. Just briefly run this by Sweetie Abochi. When was the last time your power went off?
On Saturday. My power was out on Saturday then. And
you've been lucky because it's been Sunday, Monday, today's Tuesday. You still have light.
I still have light.
Wow.
I think I'm lucky. But as we were doing that breakdown, I thought to myself, after all these notices, what was the challenge that ECG was facing that they couldn't even give us a load shedding timetable? And you also mentioned that PURC had also directed them to do so.
So GridCo was telling them to manage the load. And usually there would be no, the ECG failed to comply.
Yeah.
For which reason, in that crunch meeting with the Mines and Energy Committee, all of this had to come up. And I will take you back to what Samuel Atachia said. He said what? A load shedding timetable was inevitable. That was his word, inevitable.
Yeah.
We can't run away from it anymore. So the question is, why are we still where we are? But in any case, Ghanaians have their own doomsday timetable.
Talk about transparency in this governance.
Exactly. But before we go to our guests, let's come back to the video wall. Now, in terms of power generation, now you look at our installed capacity, because I've already mentioned to you the 58% that goes unutilized, right? So installed capacity stands at 5,626 megawatts. Then you look at available capacity. It's like your bank account, your available funds versus what the optimum may be. So available capacity, 3,251 megawatts. At peak demand, you're looking at 3,618 megawatts. And the deficit is 2,375 megawatts. Let's go to the next slide.
That's it.
All right, so we'll get you more details of that as and when they are ready. But let's start bringing in our guests who join the conversation. We have Edward Bauer. He's member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. We also have Kwadwo Poku, who is also in the conversation. Is that Kwadwo Poku I see in the background? Mr. Poku, good morning.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm sure you followed the conversation up to this point.
Well, I was following it to a point, yes, and there's a few things I'll correct, but I need to take you, Ben, and your guest in the studio to an energy theory and practical seminar, so we can have this conversation. When you're educating your listeners, you can educate them better.
Forget about the theory. We want the practicals, so we can get right into it. But let me just confirm whether I have my other guests with me. Do we have Edward Bauer?
Yeah, he's in his Porsche, brand new Bentley. He's in his brand new Bentley listening to us.
Okay, I just wanted the sound of Mr. Bauer. All right, so I'll start with you, Kwadwo Poku. Let's start with the education that you want to put out. But mind you, I'll just leave it to you. Kwadwo Poku. Let's start with your understanding of the issues. Hold for me. Don't set your own questions yet. Let me set the question, then you answer.
No, let's start with the table behind you. Let's start with the table behind you.
Right.
That 200, that red line is not a deficit. You see, when you call something a deficit, that it gives the wrong interpretation. You started off with an installed capacity. It means that that capacity is available to us, is installed, is in country, is ready to be used. Now, for if one reason or the other, that capacity is not available to be called on, it's not a deficit. Because when you say something is a deficit,
Kwadwo,
it means that...
Kwadwo, look at the chart. This is our installed capacity, 5,000 plus, 5,600 plus. What is available to us? That's why I was making... drawing linkages between your bank account. You would usually see two lines. what you have in there and what is actually available to you for withdrawal.
No, they're all available
this
to you.
is
The point
what
is, all
we
the
know is
private-
available.
Hold on. The ones that are not available are the ones that is due maintenance is not available. But if you look at the 2,300, that's not all due to maintenance. So what is not available to you is the ones that are out on maintenance. If something is there and it doesn't have fuel at a point, it's not a deficit. That's why it's the word deficit I want you to basically...
Your problem is with the word deficit. What word would you use?
Sorry?
What word would you prefer?
Well, it doesn't come in. Just in your table that you've done, educating the public, let's go with what is the installed capacity is, what is available in terms of not on maintenance, right? So you have a 3-line, the amount of outages, the amount of capacity out on maintenance, what is available to come on, and then what is the installed capacity is. Those are your 3 lines. You don't need to have a deficit one.
You've still not answered my question. What other word would you use there in place of
I wouldn't bring in
so what would you use?
That's what I'm saying. There's no need for it.
Well, we opted to use it.
It doesn't explain anything.
Well, we opted to use it. We applied our discretion.
Well, that's fine.
And we've opted to use it.
That's fine, Ben. My next point would be the issue of timetable.
Right.
In your other slide, you talk about the notice period within which GRIDCO gave ECG. You realize that it is about an hour, right?
Or up to 3 hours. Get it clear, because for some,
hours,
1 hour,
exactly.
some 2 to 3 hours.
Thank you. Now, is an hour, 2 to 3 hours enough to give anybody a timetable?
Is it not enough Is it not enough though for the ECG?
It's not enough for anybody to be given a timetable. So
is it not enough for the ECG to go ahead and comply with what the GRIDCO was saying? Is that enough? Not necessarily a timetable, but GRIDCO had given a directive.
Right. But that is a different conversation that I will explain in a minute. But I just want to explain this whole thing about timetable issue. Everybody makes it look that ECG is aware of a certain amount of deficit that is going to happen, and they are refusing to give a timetable. From your own slide that you put on there, it says that GRIDCO gives up to 3 hours notice to ECG to load shed. It means that going into the peak period, there is no certainty that the load is not available. There is no certainty because we have the installed capacity. Everything is okay until GRIDCO sees that their frequency is decaying. Now, let me give a little bit of indication. The transmission lines that we have around the country should have a frequency of 50 hertz. That means that the supply and the demand on the transmission should balance at 50 hertz. When GRIDCO engineers sit in their control room and they see that there is more demand on the transmission than there is supply, the frequency starts decaying. When it gets to about 49.8, they will now start looking around and see what's going on, that the frequency is decaying. Then they will probably realize that maybe a power plant is not on, or a power plant is not on at full capacity. They will now look around and see, okay, who can be called upon to augment that power? If they can't find anybody to be called upon to augment that shortage on the transmission line, then at that point, within an hour to 3 hours, they will now tell ECG to manage load. But the point that we are trying to put across is that everybody is up in arms about this timetable thing. You guys have explained it clearly that there isn't enough time within the technicalities available to give anybody a timetable. Because we are...
Go ahead.
We are not in a situation where we are going into the day knowing that there's a shortfall.
Okay.
Your host, your guest in the studio, or your colleague in the studio confirmed that as of Saturday, he's not had any outages till today. And most people around the country have not had outages till today.
Kwadwo Poku, let's not even do this because I'm sorry, it would go a certain trajectory that probably you don't want to. I get where you sit. I have people this very morning. I was even cracking a joke. He doesn't follow the news review. You would have heard me talk about it. So don't use our example. I know people who over the weekend had power outages. But two crucial issues I want to run by you. One has to do with the fact that, listen, the ECG, and in fact, GRIDCO has actually made mention of the fact that in terms of these schedules, right, there have been some based on maintenance, transformers, this and that. How about those ones? The PURC, in its last document communication with the ECG, mentioned some of those and said those ones, you know, when maintenance is going to happen on these transformers and others, you know. How about the timetable on some of those? We've seen some of them, but in some other areas, not at all. How do you respond to that one? Let me bring in Edward Bauer, who is also on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. Edward Bauer, good morning.
How are you?
I am well. You've listened to Kwadwo Poku try to explain away some of these issues. I'd like to find out, what is your understanding of where we are and why are we where we are now? The Mines and Energy Committee head, Samuel Atachia, at least, he has made mention of the fact that a load shedding timetable is critical as of now. He says it's inevitable. Your thoughts?
Thank you very much. I think that Kwadwo Poku this morning ended up accusing everybody. Let me start first by indicating that just as a matter of, since it was an issue of public education, yes, and you are right when you indicate about the issue of a deficit, but let me explain it. So we have a strong capacity, and we have what we call dependable capacity. Dependable capacity is just simply that the capacity is ready to be dispatched, assuming that all conditions are present. So, for example, if there's fuel, if there's this, that, they'll be ready to be dispatched. Then we have available. That irrespective of the fact that these ones are all dependable, it's just because we cannot dispatch them because of X, Y, Z. Now, the current situation is that we have roughly about 70% of our our capacity, dependable capacity. That simply is because of fuel. So fuel has been the major reason why they are not available. They are dependable. So it means that if we were to have fuel, we will be able to dispatch them. So that is just the challenge there. And definitely it becomes a deficit if you cannot dispatch it, because you have a demand, you have a supply. A shortfall of it is a deficit. And so I was not too sure exactly what Kwadwo Poku wanted to say. But now back to the substances. The issue of timetable, my brother, luckily enough, I happen to have served for about 3 years on the load management committee that was set up under the President John Mahama. You see, usually you have a situation where the distributor, in this case ECG, will have had a fair idea, the supply outlook for say about a week or two, and know that consistently off peak, on the average, this is what they always ask us to share. And
hello, Mr. Bauer.
They then draw a timetable for both off peak and peak time. Now, if in the course of that, Gridco realizes that, oh no, I have even more capacity than I expected, they will tell you that, okay, in as much as you, on the average, you should have been shedding, say, X amount, we are asking you to shed X minus this. So you already know the community in which you are going to shed. So the issue of load management timetable is to give fairness to all your customers. That today, I was able to shed point A. Tomorrow, I will shed point B. Tomorrow next, I'll shed point C. And I will then repeat the cycle. So anytime there's a benefit in terms of increase in generation, maybe it's supposed to be the time of shed, community A. Maybe some of them will still get lights because on that particular day, the amount of power that was supposed to be shared went down. If there's a situation where the amount of power to be shared will be too much, will be more than what the A can even take, then they can say, okay, part of B will come on board to me. So you have a fair idea. It's a way of treating customers fairly. If you do not have a timetable, and Gridco says shed power, you are not able to share, because there's no timetable. When Gridco sits in his control room and sees that our frequency is going down, and because our frequency is going down, if we don't take people off, what is going to happen? It will compromise the whole network. Then they arbitrarily will look for the largest load and shed. So there can be a possibility where a particular area will consistently be going off, because Gridco will not know. Gridco is just interested in saving its network, and it has to do it very quickly. And so they will just take off. And that is why there's always the need for a timetable for fairness in terms of share, for the want of a better word, distributing the difficulty.
And Bauer, Edward Bauer, that was exactly the point I was about to get to with Kwadwo Poku. That Gridco, just like...
I'm back on.
Yes, but I'll come to you shortly. That was the point I wanted to get to him on, about the consequences of not going according to what Gridco was saying. I just wanted him to spell that out, because like you're mentioning now, if that load is not shared, then our equipment could be compromised and we could be on the losing end. So what exactly, how damaging would it be if these circumstances come up, Gridco gives the directive, ECG fails to comply? Bauer, Edward Bauer.
So usually when you have a situation where your demand is higher than your supply and the system is still on and you don't share, you have what we call the total blackout. So normally when you see situations where you have the whole total blackout in the whole country, a whole total shutdown, it's because, most often than not, it is because one of your largest units has gone down, the frequency has come down, and to be able to protect the system shuts off. So that is why you always have total blackout for the whole country, and that has its own implications in terms of security and other things. And so normally the person who is in charge of your network, and in this case it's Gridco, will always want to ensure that, look, your frequency is at the best possible time that will safeguard what we call it, the network. So the consequences of it is about security. The consequences of it is about compromising your network, and the consequences of it, to a very large extent, assuming that Gridco wants to prevent this, is to unfairly treat some particular type of customers, particularly those who reside in areas where the load is bigger. Right. When the load is bigger, Gridco has the tendency to take off that, because that will then help their system come back stabilized. And so if you live in a neighborhood where the load is heavier, most often than not, you will be taken off. If you are supposed to be taken off, not by your distributor, but by the person who is transmitting the power, most often than not, you'll be a victim.
All right. Just hold for me. I just want to run this quickly by Kwadwo Poku, and then Sweetie Abochi will come in, because she also has quite a number of questions on her mind on this matter. But Kwadwo Poku, so what you missed when you went off, I'd wanted to find out from you. How about those that ECG is aware of, the maintenance activities on transformers and others that it's conducting? It can give a load shedding timetable in those areas. I have seen a few, but generally there are concerns about that it doesn't give load shedding timetables for all the maintenance, the purported maintenance. And then you can add your voice to this bit about the consequences of ECG not going according to Gridco's warnings. Quick thoughts.
Ben, give me a little bit of time and let me explain. You
don't have that much time, but please
let me quickly try and explain why Gridco wrote that letter. You see, this is what the problem is. What Edward Bauer is describing, the opposite is happening. ECG is the one who has the power purchase agreements, the PPAs. And they are the ones that basically contract all these IPPs to generate power. When ECG sits down and look at the powers that they have contracted, ECG has a concessionary area, which is the southern part of this country. ECG now knows the total amount of generation in the country for their concessionary area. So the total amount of power being generated is way more than what they need for their concessionary area. At any point in time, they are checking this thing. So Gridco is playing a role, what you call the technical load wheeler, which is the one wheeling the load for everybody. So Gridco gives power to the mines. Gridco gives power to VRA customers, which is the exports and stuff like that. Gridco gives power to the NetCo and also to ECG. Now, when ECG sits and says that, okay, there is about 3,800 at this point being generated. I only need 2,008. Sorry, ECG thinks that there's 3,800 being generated. He only needs 2,800 for his concessionary area, and that is power that he has contracted. That power is being generated maybe 30% more. Then you come to ECG and tell him that shed 300 megawatts. ECG tells you that, look, I do not need to shed power because in the concessionary area, for the power I have contracted, there is more being generated than you are even telling me to. I hope you understand what the point I'm making. Because look, ECG has commitment to its customers, which is me and you living in the southern part. If they see that there is 4,000 megawatts being generated in a particular time, what they need is, let's say, 3,000, and there's 1,000 difference, but you are telling them to load shed. That's where they are saying that we can't. You see, so what Edward Bauer is describing, it's not the same thing. In the past, ECG realized that they did not have enough power. So when they are going into the timetable era, they will now say, look, we need 400, we don't have, Gridco, help us manage this 400. But this is the time when, and the letter is clear. You guys can read the Gridco letter to ECG. If I have told you this without the letter, somebody will tell you I'm lying. But there is a letter. So there's a difficulty between Gridco and ECG. Where ECG feels that the total number of capacity being generated is more than what they need. So why are you asking them to load shed? That is the point. So the minister in his own capacity will sit with Gridco and ECG and iron out these difficulties. But you see, there is a problem. And the problem, some of us have largely admitted to it, that in part fuel, in part maintenance. And like I said before I went off, the system has improved. In the last week, it has improved immensely. There are still challenges here and there that nobody would not say is not, okay? But let's give credence where there is. All of us talk about these
I want to interject you here. You're saying that the system has improved, but there are still some challenges. And you're also saying that we don't need a timetable because it doesn't actually fit into the workings of how this energy is distributed. So how do we move forward? Because when you were talking, I made some notes. You're saying that, of course, what we are supplying and what we are generating, there's some sort of difference, not deficit, because we can't use the word deficit. So if ECG and Gridco cannot work out a way to preempt when the frequency will come down or when their network will be challenged, how do we ensure that these challenges that you say we still have do not affect citizens when we need power the most? How do we actually move forward from here?
My dear, I like the word you use, preempt. We are using electrical and mechanical gadgets. How do you preempt anything?
So are there any systems in place? Gridco is supposed to be supplying energy to the whole country. ECG, there's no system in place to actually monitor and tell when there might be a problem.
That is where the monitoring, my dear, let me explain. That is where the monitoring only gives that result an hour to 2 hours, 3 hours from what you guys are putting out there on your board. Nobody is saying that there's nothing to monitor. But the point that ECG is saying, and that is what resulted in this letter from Gridco, is that as far as they are concerned, there is enough power being generated in the country for their customers.
How do you insist that there's enough power when we all know that there isn't enough power?
No, there is. But you see, that's the problem. That is where it's technical. That is why sometimes I don't want some of these things to be discussed in a short period of time. Because if you listen to the ECG side, they are right. Because look, there are other factors that come in aside only ECG. Bear in mind, VRA, okay? VRA is not only a generator. VRA is also retailing bulk power to some customers. So if there is the total amount of power and VRA is serving their customers at the expense of ECG residential customers, ECG will have a problem with that. So there's a bit more to it. That's why I'm saying that, look, let's educate Ghanaians to basically understand. Edward Bauer might not agree with what I'm saying, but you can have
Edward, you can come in. But Kwadwo Poku, my final bit of the question I asked was, how do we move forward? Because you're insisting that there's enough power. You said that the system has improved.
We move forward by solving the problem.
How do we do that?
We move forward by solving the problem. But we are
because we need money to buy fuel. That's a challenge.
My dear, in large, from the 2 weeks till now, the system has improved. The system has greatly improved. Look, we had problems last month. I admitted to it with Edward Bauer on TV3 and on Metro and on your platform. Today, the system has greatly improved. There is challenges that we are solving. The minister, the president, and today EMT is meeting.
But because we don't have enough time, let's give Edward some time to react to everything we're saying so far. Edward, you've been nodding your head and shaking your head. What's on your mind?
You see, I think that my brother Kwadwo is just confusing issues. Now, so let's use his logic. His logic is that ECG has a PPA, that's power purchase agreements with companies, and therefore they know that looking at the amount of power, the amount of power that can be generated from these contracts, They know that even if you say they should share 300, they still can have enough power. But one thing he's not telling you is, look, these PPAs are with the independent power producers. They are not with VRA. VRA has no power purchase agreement with ECG. Indeed, that is why VRA is available not only to ECG, but they are also available to NETCO, that's the northern part of Ghana, which is a subsidiary of VRA. And of course, they also have contracts with neighboring countries. VRA is the largest single generator of power in this country. So if you have a situation where your independent power producers do not even have money to generate power because they cannot buy fuel, and so you now have to rely on the single largest generator, and that is VRA. And they are asking you to draw a timetable. Why would you say that by virtue of the fact that I have a PPA with a number of power producers, on the basis of that, I am not going to share power because I know that I should still have power? When you know that those generators do not have fuel, and they don't have fuel because you have refused to pay them as part of the cash waterfall mechanism. So I think that basically his confusion issues. But let me now come to certain things. So let's look a way forward in this. One, I think that we are not coming out of this problem anytime soon. Kwadwo Poku, in his said about a few weeks ago, was saying that by April, we would have sorted out this. Today is what? 9th, am I right? 9th April, and we are still in this.
But we're still in April, are we not? We're still in April.
He said by the beginning of April. That's why we were in March. I had this conversation with him. He said by April we would have gotten it. And we are now moving to the second week of April, and this is the case. And we have predicted that because it is an issue of finance, that unless government deliberately looks for money to sort out this problem is going nowhere. Because, look, let me explain two things to you. One, even there are a number of the plants, like the generating plants.
Hello, Edward Bauer. Hello.
I think the Wi-Fi in Bentley has cut out.
Hello, Edward Bauer. Can you hear me?
No.
Edward Bauer, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We lost you for about 15 seconds, so just go back and make your point.
I can. It's a capital-intensive, what do you call it, endeavor. They all have insurance coverage. Now, as part of your insurance policy, usually you have scheduled maintenance. If you have a scheduled or mandatory maintenance and you do not go with it, what then happens is that if any mishap occurs, the policy does not cover it. That is a basic practice, a very common practice within the industry. So when a plant, a generator is supposed to go and take its plant through scheduled maintenance, and he has no money to call in the contractors to do the maintenance, he will not risk putting his generating plant on. But if anything happens, there's no insurance policy covering it. And because of the financial issues, most of these plants, even though they are due for maintenance, because they do not have money to do it, they shut down. That's one aspect. The other aspect is the fact that those who even can run do not have fuel to run because they have not been paid to be able to procure fuel. Or the state itself, at certain times, sometimes the state is the one that buys the fuel. The state itself is cash strapped to the extent that they cannot procure fuel.
Quick interjection, Edward Bauer. The $1.2 billion we require in the course of the year to facilitate this, are you saying that both from the end of the state and from the point of the ECG, because the ECG has been raising revenue, are you saying, I just want some clarity, that will not be able to raise that sum of money to fuel the engines to produce electricity?
We cannot, and I have to explain to you. So now, if you look at the losses of ECG basically loses about 34%, between 33% and 34%. So assuming that you had 100 Ghana cedis worth of power that ECG has procured, they cannot account for about 34 Ghana cedis. So now the ECG then takes this. The state says that let's have what we call cash waterfall mechanism. So even the small that you have collected, put it in a pot. Let's share it among all the players within the value chain. Now, the cash waterfall mechanism, indeed, just this weekend, VRA, one of VRA's major challenges that they stated to the committee was that the cash waterfall mechanism was not operating. So because they are not operating, you have between August and January or maybe February thereabout, they have not been paid a cent. Now, how do they meet their operational costs? they cannot meet their operational cost. So already, ECG cannot even meet the total amount of money they need for the value chain. That's part. 2, as part of the mechanism, we have what we call the level A, players, and they are mostly the independent power producers. Usually, they are paid first. So when they are paid, the rest that is left is used in paying that of the state agents, the SOE, that's the utilities that belong to the state. Government usually has to augment that from its own budget. And this is because most of the MMDAs owe these utilities, and therefore government has to do that. So even in the last sharing formula, government was supposed to pay about 200 million to add to the balance of about 307 million to pay the state utilities, that we, VRA, and all other people. Unfortunately, government itself over that period has not even given a dime to that. And so on daily basis, we are piling up. And this is not in this amount we are talking about, it's not in cedis, it's in dollars. And the reason why it becomes even more dangerous is that all the operations that all these utilities get themselves involved in, they transact in dollars, spare parts in dollars, fuel procurement in dollars, fuel transportation in dollars. However, ECG pays in terms collects tariffs in terms of cedis. So even when the CD is depreciating, there's also an added forex loss, which is a liability that has to be borne by somebody. It is not factored into the tariff. And so state has to bear it by virtue of the fact that it is because the economy is not functioning. So if you look at the cocktail of all these problems, the issue of the depreciation of the CD, the fact that ECD cannot account for its power, the fact that government itself cannot even raise money to pay for the deficit as a result of the usage of power by state agencies. I can't see us getting that 1.6 billion within this short term when we are always running to IMF asking for 300 million, 600 million.
In other words,
300 million, we cannot even sign an LGBTQ plus, bill. I'm just telling you.
In other words, Edward Bauer, just clarify for me, we are not going to be able to resolve this doomsday situation in 2024.
I'll be surprised if it is that.
Kwadwo Poku, let me come to you, and Sweetie Abachi will give us the concluding remarks on this. Hold your horses, Kwadwo. You like going to relax. The Mines and Energy Committee, and I'm referencing Samuel Atachia, has said that it is now inevitable. The slap, we'll take it. But we need to have a timetable. Do you disagree with him?
No, I don't. I mean, my brother, look, I have always said that Kwadwo Poku will be one of the first people to call for a timetable when it's feasible. We should have a timetable when it's feasible. When we are in a position where a timetable should be given, it should be given. But you see, I like the end bit where you give to my brother Edward Bauer. 2024, we can't solve this power problem over everybody's dead body. Look, this problem right now has been improved.
You know, this is not a case of wishes.
Let me.
No, I'm just reminding you, this is not a case of wishes being horses for beggars to ride. You know that, right?
No,
it's about money.
That's what it is. But that is what it is. If Edward Bauer says that this thing is financial, that's fine. Look, in part, yes, because we are growing as a nation, okay? And we are in a situation where the international turmoils in the Middle East, the international turmoils in all the world that is creating oil to now go past $100 per barrel is creating problems if somebody thinks that you can just go and bring light crude oil or bring HFO from the international market to power problems and not increase electricity. Okay? What this government is doing is basically taking the Mobrowa approach. Yes, we might endure 1 or 2 outages so that we don't have to go into hardship. We have to manage the situation.
Okay,
we have to manage the situation.
Time is not on our side. Do you agree, quickly, do you agree that we need $1.2 billion as it stands to fix our energy crisis in 2024?
We need more than that. We need more than that.
Hold on.
Well, I don't know
Please hold on for me.
To fix the indebtedness in this problem, what the minister is proposing is that we try and get something like 300 million Ghana cedis every month aside for these 4 problems.
Right.
Okay?
Now, in the cost of securing that money, there will come a time when Gridco ECG will realize that there's not enough power to supply across the country because their frequency will be affected and network will be affected. These issues persist, like you rightly said. Now, the issue about timetable, are you saying that in the face of all these things that we've said, we don't have money to buy fuel, there are challenges, whether they are infrastructural or otherwise? Let me finish my question, please, Kwadwo Poku.
No, but
are you saying that...
I never said we don't have money to buy fuel.
So where, the $1.2 billion, where is that money going to be? What would the money be used for?
From the UNI, the tariffs we pay. Look,
right. So my question is...
Listen.
My question is...
Okay, ask your question.
On the back of the money we need, on the back of these challenges that you say persist, is it not possible that we have people who are dying because they've scheduled surgeries and the lights just go off and they're found wanting? Doctors are lamenting. Ghanaians are suffering and saying that we need to at least plan ahead to know that we won't have power at a certain time. Are you saying that at this point, even though that someone attaching has said that we should give us a timetable, you are saying that it's not necessary? Is it a yes or no? And then we can conclude. Are you saying that on the back of all these challenges, the money that we do not have, the health sector crisis, individuals suffering, businesses suffering, collapsing because there's not enough power, and we do not know how to plan for it, we still don't need a timetable?
My dear, I don't like when people put words in my mouth. I have not said it's not necessary. I have said that Kwadwo Poku will call for it when the time arises.
But you're not calling for it now.
No, hold on. Because there's no need for it for now.
Right. That's okay. We need to go.
Please, can I land?
Do that in 1 minute.
The point you are trying to put out there. Sorry?
Do it. You can conclude in 1 minute, please.
Well, you've already concluded yourself, so then there's no point to give me that 1 minute. Because I keep telling you that I will call for that timetable if that is feasibly possible to call for that timetable. Look, people make it look like that timetable will create a crack or what is the timetable? If it's feasible, everybody will call for it. Kwadwo Poku will call for it. But you have explained to Ghanaians that within 1 hour to 2 hours is the notice that ECG has to basically manage load. How are you going to give a timetable within 2 to 3 hours? The money issue that you are talking about, the 1.2 billion, look, the electricity sector is indebted. It's nothing new. Everybody knows that there's indebtedness in the energy sector. We are managing to do the best out of the situation that we have. Yes, there is depreciation of the city. There is all the things that everybody will talk about. But today, what Ghanaians want to know is the problem being solved? And the question is, yes, 100% the problem is being solved. The problem has improved. So the minister has held several meetings with the president and his team within the sector and agreed that there's going to be a certain generation of collection from money from ECG. We're going to put aside a certain amount of money to basically cater for fuel. And that issue is going to go. But what I want Ghanaians to understand, and you to understand, is that we need to do a prudent management. We can't just go into the international market when there's high price of fuel and be buying crude oil and light crude oil just because there is the need for it. We need to manage, because tomorrow, if we increase electricity, that will be a different conversation.
Right. Thank you so much.
We're grateful for your time. Of course, he disagrees with the Mines and Energy Committee's Samuel Atachia, which is what I find interesting. But time will tell. I always say that with these conversations, time will definitely tell whether we stay put or whether we push comes to shove or whether eventually we have a time table. So here we go. That's the conversation we've brought to you as far as energy is concerned. Those who joined us on the Mines and Energy Committee, we have Edward Bauer, and on the other end, energy analyst Kwadwo Poku. We'll be right back with more on the AM show, talking about the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu, and her lead as far as the judiciary is concerned. We'll be right back.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's the number of heaps of rubbish on display in between the highways on the Medina-Zongo stretch at the La in Kwantanan district in the national capital. Pedestrians call this an eyesore, especially for a city which yearns to be the cleanest in Africa.
It's very, 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 very abhorrent. They have to charge those who are around too. You are sitting here saying, and after that you go and put garbage here. It's not nice. Those should change their attitude.
Those who make, gather and dump the rubbish in between the roads say it is the assembly which has not been responsible in collecting the rubbish.
The waste collectors don't come to pick the rubbish, and so this place is always filthy and smelling. The entire stretch is filled with rubbish. Why? This leads to cholera and malaria. Government should pay the collectors so they can do their work. I dare ask, is this the country we say will be the cleanest in Africa soon?
Ghana say, Ghana ye, I'm a Ghana ye crabeshe, Ghana is abroche na new. Abroche na neguon, abroche Ghana abroche neguon.
Also contesting are some of the traders who sell along the highway and are being blamed for generating such filth and not dumping them in designated bins.
Why else?
When we close from work, we collect all the rubbish we make. We always sweep our working areas, especially when we close. And the waste collectors come for the rubbish every morning, but today they are late.
Fed up with the constant spectacle of rubbish littered all over the stretch, this regular user of the road proposes a solution.
You see, the rubbish is not from the Togo people, it's not from Burkina Faso, it's not from Cote d'Ivoire, it's from the Ghanaians. The ordinary man who is walking on the street, you see, you come and pick it today, tomorrow when you come and meet it again. So now what are you going to do? So this one, me, I don't put blame on the Zoom Lion, because the Zoom Lion, now no place they're supposed to put the dustbins. So they will tell the people, you put it on the middle of the road, so after another day they will come and pick it. So we will talk. Government will go, government will come, government will go, government will come. We are in the same problem.
Frustrated about the regular sight of rubbish, this road user also struggles to recommend to joiners a lasting solution he believes would help keep the city clean.
I don't know. We are the cause, you see, so at least the assembly should at least give us a lot of these bins, rubbish bins, so that if anything we can dump inside instead of putting it on the ground.
From Medina here in Accra, I am Hannah Odami for Joy News.
Well, thank you for staying with us. This is still the AM show. And that was our latest episode of Filth Exhibition, a Joy News series showing you how we're dealing with the sanitation situation in Ghana on the back of President Kwadwo's promise to make Accra the cleanest city in the world. But at this juncture, we want to talk about the Chief Justice's vision on how to ensure effective justice delivery in Ghana. She's been talking about a lot of things, touched on digitization, money for the judiciary, but I want to just give you a highlight to bring you up to speed on what, a summary of what she's been saying. She says there is a need to increase the budget for the judiciary to allow us room to expand our infrastructure in the automation and digitalization agenda, because undoubtedly, the efficiency of core processes and administration is assured with more deliberate use of technology. She also says that to speed up the efficiency and effectiveness of our systems, so much more is needed for and from the judiciary than determination and avowed purpose. There is a need to expedite the national digitization agenda to allow for easier networking of all stakeholders. She also says there is a need to increase that was the first slide that I just read to you. So there is a need to increase our budget to make learning, library, and operational resources available to all judges and staff in order to enhance the speed with which both judicial and administrative decisions are made and communicated to stakeholders. And then she says there is a need for the judiciary to make itself accountable by increasing transparency in the process and output of our judgment and decisions through real-time publication of decisions. She goes on to say There is a need to harness the attention of external stakeholders in the justice delivery relay for improving excellence in their own services in order that they do not compromise the quality of justice. I wish to quote, this is her words, I wish to express my determination to relentlessly seek the support of the legislature in matters of the budget of the judiciary and the support of both the executive and legislature for accelerated infrastructure in technology and for innovative models of doing business with technology. So those are some of the things, the highlights from the Judiciary, the Chief Justice's meeting, press briefing yesterday on what she calls her vision, leading justice. Our guest joining us for this conversation first is Dr. John Okwai-Sapong, who's a CDD fellow. Dr. Kwapong, thank you for joining us. I'm sure you were following the conversation to this point. What are your initial thoughts?
Hello, good morning. Yes, I also had a chance to read the full speech, and I think it comes at a very opportune time and also at the right time. I think one of the things that I have highlighted over the last 2 years, post the release of Afrobarometer Round 9 in 2022, is the fact that if you look at how Ghanaians are beginning to feel about institutions and perceive our institutions, that it doesn't leave the institutions in a good light, particularly the judiciary. I mean, you're talking about only about 11% of Ghanaians, as of Afrobarometer Round 9, saying they have a lot of trust in the judiciary. And then the perceptions of corruption in the judiciary as well. And when you're talking about a critical institution like the judiciary, the last thing that you want is for citizens to have a very low level of trust in it and also perceive it to be corrupt, because then we are talking about an institution charged with mediating, whether it's disputes, administering justice, resolving all manner of disagreements, differences. I mean, ensuring that other institutions are not doing things that are injurious or offensive to the law, to the constitution, etc., etc. So for me, it is coming at the right time. And I think she's also looking, therefore, at the things that would begin to reshape the judiciary and go a long way to change the way the public is feeling, about the judiciary as an institution. So I think it's in the right direction.
Right. Well, she's been, commended that this is the first of its kind for the judiciary to open themselves up for public scrutiny and all that. And I want to go back to the slides about money for the judiciary, expanding the infrastructure and all that. Do you think that this is, in a way, exposing the judiciary? I remember our conversation on the build-up to this. Professor was saying that that although this is a step in the right direction, care should be taken that you don't overexpose yourself, because it is the judiciary, it's the final place of adjudicator. Do you think that this has exposed the judiciary, asking for money, digitalization, and the key highlights that you yourself have read from the speech?
I don't think it is overexposing the judiciary. If you read the speech and if you listen to what she said, one of the things she regularly also highlighted is the fact that the judiciary can only get to where it wants to get, or at least she can realize this vision that she has for the judiciary if the public would also, partner with their efforts to do all the things that she's envisioning to do. And so the only way you can get the public, other partners to be able to say we would lend hands to support you in this effort is to let them know exactly what is going on and what it is that you intend to do. And a lot of the things that she's highlighting, I also believe are not things that are unknown to the general public. For example, she talks about land litigation and trying to bring stakeholders around the table to talk about why there seemed to be a lot of litigation around land and protracted litigation, around land issues. I always say that my mom, for example, had a 19-year-old fight. I mean, it was a 19-year litigation over, someone, encroaching in their family lands, right? And so these are things that is known, people have experienced. And so I don't think it's overexposing or exposing the judiciary too much. I think it's good that she's recognizing the state of the judiciary in a very public way, and also saying to the public, we ought to do something about this if we are to strengthen this key institution and its key role that it plays in not just upholding the law, but also delivering justice.
Right. But before we even get into the actual details and talk about corruption and all that, Benjamin, what did you think?
Well, interesting developments. She talks about some things we already know, increasing the budget so that learning, library, and operational resources can be made available to judges. We know that in some instances, for example, when it comes to cybersecurity, our judges themselves have had to be trained so that when such cases come to them, they can have ample knowledge, because it doesn't just come with the phrase. So some interesting points she made as well in respect of, or in respect to the accountability of the judiciary itself. But I'm going to go through a number of other points as well as we bring in our other guests. She also made mention of the fact that she wished to express her determination to relentlessly seek the support of the legislature in matters of the budget of the judiciary and the support of both the executive and legislature for accelerated infrastructure in technology and for innovative models of doing business with technology. I found that really interesting in terms of dealing with, the legislature seeking more. Then, judicial administration must close the gaps through which court users are subjected to exploitation and rent-seeking behavior. Of course, that also feeds into whatever goroism may be taking place. This demands the removal of as much of the human interfacing that court work is exposed to, which feeds into any corrupt practices. Then she makes mention of court officials being expected to work with independence, impartiality, competence, and integrity. Much of these ethical values are lost in the heavy traffic of human interfacing between court officials and court users, including unknown brokers functioning around the courts. And those are the Goro boys and girls I was talking about. Then she says also the current situation where one juror can be attached to the courts for years, leaving their full-time work for long periods and earning from both institutions through the same public purse needs to be seriously deconstructed. That's a crucial point that she makes. Is it fair? Are they rotated well enough? And again, steps are being taken to revert to the opening and closure of our sizes, which ensured that jurors remained within the judiciary for only a short period. And then also, the vision for producing culture-changing reorientation programs cannot be achieved without the active partnership and support of stakeholders, including community of businesses and donors. Let me bring in, do we have Martin Pebu with us? All right. Mr. Kwapong, Dr. Kwapong, I beg your pardon. What is your reaction to this? I'd like to start from the point of the judiciary, basically through this speech or this path that the Chief Justice is taking, making requests of the legislature. Now, you know what it means. You approve my budget, I approve the other person's budget, and it goes like that. It's more like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But she is saying the judiciary needs a lot more to be able to perform its functions properly. Good call?
Very good call. The things that she's envisioning, the things that she wants to do would also need not just human resources, but would also need a lot of financial resources to be able to accomplish that. And so when she takes a look at the budget for the judiciary, I'm sure she's realizing we can't get to where I envision the courts and the entire judiciary service getting to if we don't get a lot more resources to help us accomplish that. Of course, Parliament controls, the purse in terms of, approving budgets for all manner of agencies and institutions. And so it's a good call to, the legislature to say, in the next round of the budget, do take a second look and see how best you can, give us a lot more resources to be able to do that. Of course, Parliament also has to weigh all of the other, should I say, all of the other things that competes for limited, government resources to be able to, to do that. But at least it's a good call to Parliament to say, if we really want to improve the effectiveness and efficiency with which we deliver justice, and the courts are able to do what we really want them to do, it will take a lot more resources. And it's not every time that for some of these critical initiatives that the Chief Justice wants to undertake, that we always want to tend to, for example, development partners, international donors, to get it done. Sometimes we ought to raise some of these funds, internally to get the job done.
Right. But I want to look at the issue of digitization. I mean, she's saying that she wants to reduce human interface. And even before the presser yesterday, she mentioned that it will be started in Kumasi, where they'll have digitalized court sessions to be able to accommodate cases in all the other northern regions. And of course, it's not, the advantages cannot be overemphasized: accessibility, cost saving. But there's also some challenges that we should be looking at, like data security, like the gap in, the gap in literacy when it comes to technology. Are we ready and able to handle this effectively if it starts? Digitizing the judiciary, You're correct.
There are those challenges that have to be dealt with, and addressed. You're talking about, the digital divide, access to the internet, cost of data. But it's one of the things that she said that really, struck me was how even sometimes a simple search, I'm saying simple because, from what she's envisioning, it should be easy to, to track a case, to get information on a case, to find a judicial decision on a case, etc., etc. But the picture she paints is, for example, if you want a decision on a particular court case that was issued maybe even just a decade ago, plowing through papers and boxes just to get to it, right? That's just one example of the many examples that one can think of, in terms of how we can speed up, access to justice delivery, if you have, a solid, e-justice system.
Yeah.
So yes, it won't happen overnight. It would encounter certain challenges, but again, for me, she's thinking the right things and envisioning the right things, and hopefully, she can realize that vision so that the court can improve in the way it conducts business. It's just amazing, even listening to her talk about the need for paralegal training for the judicial service, things that I never even thought about. So yeah.
Now, she goes on to talk about a crucial subject. Some people have wondered about how accountable the judiciary is. Some have felt they are in that ivory tower where they basically do not have to explain anything. Of course, there's a difference between the reasoning of a court and all of that and their decisions versus the real workings of the judiciary. Now, she talks about accountability, making the judiciary more accountable through transparency. And some are asking, just how transparent can they be? Just how far can they go? Because even in these interactions that she started giving, there will obviously be limits. What are your expectations in that regard?
One of the things I've always wondered about is the waiting period between when court decisions are issued and when the full written opinion is also issued, right? So when a court makes a pronouncement, particularly on some very major issues or constitutional cases, right? And trying to get all of the reasonings and how the court arrived at why it ruled in a particular way. Sometimes it takes months to get that, that written opinion, for those who are well versed in, in the law, or even for the media to, to share, to probe, to ask questions, so that we can get a full picture and a full understanding. In that waiting period, you create a gap in which you allow folks to then fill in those gaps, right? Whenever there's an information gap, you create an opportunity for individuals to fill in that space with their own, so either conjecture, their own reasons, etc., etc. Right? So I believe that, for example, one of the things that you can do to enhance transparency is to ensure that the moment a court is making a pronouncement, the written opinion also becomes, available. Yes, I know that sometimes it's been said that it takes them quite some time to actually fully write out that written opinion. If that's the case, finish writing that full opinion or opinions and then make that public, pronouncements. And even sometimes little things like, how our cases even scheduled, for hearing, right? If you can have, if you can even make some of those things public, so the judges themselves don't have to speak to that, but there are administrative persons who run the judicial service, right? Explanations here and there are things that can, help, because there's a lot of, why does the court do this? It doesn't seem like the court, is treating people fair. All of those little things, the judges themselves or the justices themselves don't necessarily have to speak to it. But at least you have others who play administrative roles in the judicial service that can, help speak to these things in such a way that you shine a much greater light of transparency, on the courts, and slowly rebuild that lost trust and confidence that citizens are expressing, in the courts.
Right, Doc. And on that point of transparency, let me bring in Martin Kwadwo, who is also known to be an anti-graft crusader. When it comes to corruption, when it comes to, at a point, the tainted image of the judiciary, because there's so much perception, and of course, we've had the number 12 Anas Arimayaw Anas expose. There's a lot in there. The Chief Justice says she wants to bring to bear accountability through transparency. Some of those avenues for people who operate in that space to do things they are not supposed to, she wants to put a block on those. What is your reaction, Mr. Kwadwo?
Yeah, so it's a couple. It's the right thing for the Chief Justice to do, right? Otherwise, the image of the judiciary will keep sinking. And once that happens, it means that the court will no longer be seen as the last bastion of our democracy, the place where disputes can be resolved, right? Yeah, so I think the right thing to do. The first thing she has to do in that regard is that, we should look at the way court processes are served, the documents that are taken to court. The people who serve this, they are so few that, so I'm talking about the bailiff system. They are so few that when you take your process to court, you file it. Master, if you don't pay money, hardly will it go. Hardly. So, let's go over this. So let's give a practical example. Mr. Kaku sues, let's say, Dr. Osai for $1 million. So, Mr. Kaku, what we're saying is that once your case has been filed, your lawyer has filed a case in court. For us to go look for Dr. Osai Papon, we all know that if you go to, I think generally CDD, you'll find him. And CDD is not a place difficult to find. They'll tell you that you have to come and direct service. So long story short, Master, you will pay money. It's just like when police tells you that when you go and lodge a complaint at the police and you need somebody arrested, you end up have to pay the fuel, etc., pay money. So that's the first thing. It's the easiest for the Chief Justice to deal with. We need to open up the bailiff system, employ so many, graduates, whether SHS or university graduates. That particular system is one that I always think that, look, this has the potential to recruit at least 1,000 graduates. Yeah, across the length and breadth of Ghana. So what I'm telling you is that we pay that bribe. Look, you have no option. You don't pay and see. Then we will not find Dr. Kwapon. We will not find him. The thing will lie down there and rot. And some even have the effrontery to charge you. You see, the smart ones know that you yourself know you have to give them something, right? But those who are not so smart, they even go to the extent of charging litigants. They will charge you 500, 1,000, etc. It's a huge problem. As if that's not enough, when these things are done, because they are so few, there's so much workload on them that even after you've paid, etc., when the person is going to serve the process, you need to follow up with the bailiff so that he will write his report. It's a one-pager or half page. Okay, so he writes half of the page, then the registrar signs. You need to chase him for him to write that report so that the registrar to certify that yes, you went to he went to CDD to serve Dr. Osei Kwapon. What I'm saying, the problem with that thing is that, so if you don't do the follow-up well, you go to court, and without that report, what we call proof of service, look, the court can't do business. So it's a huge problem. So everything the Chief Justice brought in there, when I didn't see this particular problem, I was like, Chief Justice, maybe she could have called a few people around, or even if not called directly, maybe sent a questionnaire around and said, what are your problems? Because that's the first place, it's the easiest. I don't see how you want to tackle corruption without first mentioning that thing, because it's the easiest to knock out. So please, let now we are discussing it, hopefully. I think she has lieutenants who may be monitoring the airwaves to see the reactions. So it's good she wants to help resolve some of the problems, but that's the easiest, and it's a huge problem, my brother. Trust me, I can go on and on and on the full day about this particular problem. Because you see, Sakako, let's say you live in Kasua, you wake up 4 a.m., get to court 9 o'clock, and they call the case, cancel. There's no proof of service. So that's to say, when they went to serve Dr. Kwapon, the document that has to be written to show that indeed the bailiff went there, it's not on the docket. Meanwhile, but then it's even paid money, but still, that document is not there. So they can't be business, because in law, because of the principle that the court must listen to both sides. If you don't see evidence that Dr. Kwapon has been served, the court cannot go on. You see, so we lose a lot. So CJ talk on it, that's where we should start from. We don't solve the problem of the corruption in the bailiff system. I don't think we can build on anything. There's this popular saying in law that you can't put something on nothing. The bailiff system, that's at the bottom. If we don't solve from that place, I don't know how we can go up. It will be a problem.
I want to continue on your trail of thought, and let me read what she said. She says, I deeply crave, along with all our well wishes, I'm sure, to change the tags of corruption, ineptitude, and insufficiency around the judiciary and judicial service of Ghana. In order to shake off these tags, training needs to be supplemented with consistent culture-changing strategies to deepen ethical modes of work in the courts. Judicial administration must close gaps through which court users are subjected to exploitation and rent-seeking behavior. Do you think that this issue of corruption and the problem that you've just diagnosed will be fixed by improving the knowledge of law among citizens?
No, that's why I said no. I don't see it at all. What I've described, I don't see how is the knowledge base she's going to increase that will stop that problem. That problem is a demand and supply problem. So to solve it, you have to look to economics, not ethics and law, the way she's articulated it. No, it's demand and supply. So as I stated, those officers are so few. Listen, you can't, you try it. That you think, you are the only one who is wrong to pay money. Okay, then your processes will lie there and rot. Yeah.
Right.
So it's the easiest. It's the easiest, and I'm sure you ask 10 out of 10 lawyers, I won't be surprised you won't get less than 8 saying that yes, it's a huge problem. You try it. Because, and you see, that is how the system works. When we say serving the process, let's use the ordinary word, bailiff, or call him messengers. Maybe people will forget. So the messengers in the court system, they have to carry the documents to go and give lawyers, to go and serve litigants. That's where it starts, openly. You go and try that, you won't pay money. You will see whether your documents will be taken to the other lawyer or not. There are a few exceptions. Those ones are when, let's say, the law firms are very close to the court. Yeah, so those of us who are near, there are some of the processes. But it's a huge problem. It's huge. I don't even know how to describe it. So when I read the Chief Justice's speech and she didn't address this matter, I was like, no, baby. Well, now we are giving feedback, but it's good. Right. The good thing is that she's come openly, that justice emanates from the people. So she's coming to the people to take their feedback, to inform them. So we are giving this feedback that we should look at the bailiff system. If we don't talk about that, I don't see how we can talk about any other thing in terms of trying to improve the justice system.
Now, in terms of ensuring that people actually do get justice and disseminating the court system across the board, she also had a few thoughts to share on that. I'd like to find out from you, though, especially with the high court system and how relevant it is across the country, especially with the context of what it does, and the Court of Appeal. What are your expectations in that regard?
Mr. Kaku, I lost you a bit. The number of courts.
Yes, I'm talking about disseminating the courts. Now, you know of the relevance of the High Court and talk about ensuring that, there are as many as possible across the region so that people can access justice rather than this flow of coming down south to Accra. And then the Court of Appeal as well. She touched on that as well. What is your take?
Oh, that one is a stellar. Yeah, absolutely. It's good. So let's explain a bit this way. So the major change I've seen there is with the Court of Appeal. You know, we used to have the Court of Appeal sitting in Tamale, Cape Coast, of course, Accra is the main one, and Koforidua, Kumasi, and Accra. So 5 cities. Then at a point in time, because of lack of resources, they had to shut down the Cape Coast, Tamale, and I think Koforidua. So we're left with Accra and Kumasi. So now with this new reform she's brought, we are going back, and then it means that there will even be more beyond these ones. So that one is a huge relief, because can you imagine somebody in Tamale has to travel all the way to Kumasi to have an appeal head? It's not good. It's not good. So, and then you look at it, when it comes to the high courts, what I'm aware of is in the OT region. The last time I knew, they didn't have a high court near, right? Yes, so I hope that will be fixed. So for the high courts in the regions, a number of regions have a number of high courts. But of course, increasing the numbers will help because of access to justice. You remember the Chief Justice herself came up with what would I call it, a notice, or for lack of a better word, that the Adenta court should do a shift system. So there will be a morning judge, evening judge, which we popularly call the 24-hour court system. Yes, because the numbers are huge. So now that she's creating more high courts, I'm sure that will be taken care of, right? So it's good. That one, absolutely, she's right on point. We need to increase access to justice. And the same way, then it means that we need more lawyers. And of course, in the past 3 years, they've done well. The Board of Legal Education, they've done well, been graduating about 1,000 lawyers for the past 3 years, right? We hope this year it will be the same, so that the number of lawyers will increase, and then hopefully we'll get a better society. Mr. Kaku, let me mention this. Do you see that I felt a certain sense of change when the Chief Justice brought this vision, trying to engage the general public? I saw change. It's a huge step forward, because she knew that coming to address us directly, she knew that definitely people will go through the speech and tell her what they agree with, and more importantly, what they disagree. Because as for what they agree with, it doesn't, well, it may give her a bit of support that, okay, validation. But most especially, the disagreements are the ones that I'm sure she'll be looking forward to. Because when you do something and it's good, it's beautiful, yourself, you can see that this is beautiful. But when there are hidden ugly things in it, you are not likely to see. So I presume that she was looking forward to the criticisms or the critiques, right? Yeah, so she's done well. That engagement is good. And especially, it also gave people an opportunity to revisit the question of what happened in the Roxanne Nelson Dafia-Mekpo case. How come that the notice that was served on Dafia-Mekpo says that the case will be called after 14 days? And even it's not like on the 15th day, that notice that Dafia-Mekpo was served, what it says is that it will be called after 14 days when we have succeeded in serving everybody. So look, there are even some cases, more than 4 months, they've not been able to serve everybody, so the case cannot move on, right? So how come that you serve Dafia-Mekpo, the thing has been served, and I think Dafia-Mekpo's application was served, was it on the 18th, that document, 18th or so, and then just a few days, less than the 14 days, Dami goes to write a secret letter to the Chief Justice, and that secret letter gets acted upon. I mean, for me, I'm so shocked that Dami never saw that such a sensitive case would bring confusion. And so when he wrote that letter to the Chief Justice, he should have copied Nipaku. Till date, it beggars belief. I'm like, what? Or he who the gods want to kill, they will first make mad. I'm surprised that the Attorney General never anticipated that if you write such a letter, send a copy to Nipaku, the lawyer for Dafia-Mekpo, so that you discuss
but let me just interject. The bit about, I mean, I get it. It's an analogy, but him whom the gods want to kill, they first make mad. I don't like the analogy because then.
Oh, let it stay. Listen.
No. I suggest you just retract it.
If you don't fight, the rights we enjoy today. Let's remember that if you don't fight, you won't get any.
No, but you can fight for whatever right without necessarily pointing to this quote about.
No, that's
because then there's the suggestion that someone is being made, something, so that something else will happen, Mr. Kwadwo.
Let it stay. Listen, if you don't fight, the system can't get better because it was such a howler. It's so elementary. You should know that this is a sensitive case. You write a letter to the Chief Justice and you don't copy the other person. I mean, come on. Mr. Akako, don't be shy. If we don't fight, the system won't get better. You think I like it this way? No, I wasn't going to be in this space. I thought I was just being trained to.
My point, Mr. Kwadwo, is that you can make your point without some of these, analogies.
Listen, Mr. Akako, you are being shy, and I'm saying that we have to call a spade a spade. You have to call a spade a spade.
I want to.
So that it should never happen again.
Right.
Never. You see, when Sori wrote his letter, you see, when Tadio Sori wrote his letter, he served the other parties. And you see, he brought it out into the media. That is how you go about it. Because, you see, the case is so sensitive that it would have occurred to any lawyer that, hey, the other side will come complaining. Especially as it came on the back of the Anas case. When the Kennedy Japan and Anas case, the same thing Kennedy Japan's lawyers wrote to ex-Chief Justice Eni Yebua. They didn't copy Anas and Co. Eni Yebua took the decision to keep Justice Barr on the case. Long story short, then it was later that it came up. You see how that case has brought embarrassment to the judiciary.
Mr. Kwadwo, we get to the point, but I want to bring back Dr. Kwapo at this point of the conversation. What I want to find out is how significant is this leading justice system on the African continent? I'm unsure how many other African countries have digitized their court system, but I know Lagos has this e-filing and the court management information system. How significant is that? Also on the back that the democracy we practice here, many have said, many African countries, say it's worthy of emulation. How significant is this leading justice on the African continent? context?
I'm not very sure what is happening, on the continent in terms of other countries and some of the efforts they are making around the judiciary. But I would say that at least from what the Chief Justice is talking about within the context of Ghana, I believe it's a very significant move. As lawyer Martin Pegu has said, there are other issues that also must be tackled as part of this Leading Justice initiative. But as I mentioned in the beginning, for me, the current state of the judiciary, as it is perceived by the public, is not the best. And so I'm hoping that this Leading Justice initiative would be able to fix some of those core issues that is fueling how the public is now beginning to perceive and feel, about our judiciary system.
The Deputy Attorney General on the phone with us too, Dinah Asonoba Dapa. She's on Zoom. Thank you for joining the conversation, madam. What are your thoughts? How do you actually feel about, a day after the launch of this Leading Justice delivery system? How do you feel about it?
No, I'm very elated, just like the Chief Justice. And I believe that this leading initiative, this leading project, brings real light to what Article 125 of our Constitution spells out. I believe that the tone of her message indicated that justice administration is in the hands of the good people of Ghana. And as such, it should not be the sole responsibility of the judiciary, who are only exercising this judicial power on behalf of Ghanaians, to do that alone. And so you realize that for me, the tone of the message was that we all need to come on board. First of all, I need to sell my vision to the people who have delegated this judicial power to us. I need to first of all sell our vision to you, and you need to buy into that vision. And so for me, I'm very excited the day after that. I feel that he has thrown the responsibility back at all of us, not just the judiciary, to ensure that the acronyms LEAD, which is law, ethics, assets, due process, and digitalization for achieving the justice system that we want comes to fruition. And so I'm very excited to have been to have witnessed this project that was launched yesterday.
How much of an impact do you think this is going to have? Some of the proposals, some of what she's brought to bear would require, logistics. She's talking about the legislature coming on board in terms of budgetary support and all of that. What do you think it will take to actually execute?
Thanks. I think it would take beyond the rhetorics, real action by the judiciary, of course, by the government to, as it were, increase the retention of the judiciary. I think if you were there, you saw how the bar president, my own brother Yabuafu, put the vice president on the spot and said that perhaps there's a time for us to ask for 100% retention for the judiciary. I think it would take a lot of commitment. If you saw the video that was shown to us, eliciting how the court system works and the challenges, you realize that each and every one of us has a role to play. And so beyond even government, beyond legislature, government approving substantial budgets to fuel the resources of the judiciary, there's also that commitment that comes from all of us, even the lawyers. And I'm happy it was announced that the Ghana Bar Association had taken the initiatives and in various regions to also support the resources of the judiciary. And so I believe that it was also a call on all of us, groupings, individuals, to also assist the judiciary in meeting, but of course, the primary responsibility on government to ensure that there's sufficient budgetary allocations for the judiciary to give real meaning to the independence, financial independence of the judiciary. So it will take beyond just statements of commitment, but actually action by respective groups, particularly the government, and also all of us who are able to support various groupings whose projects or initiatives include support for the judiciary to actually come on board.
Now, in terms of some practices that have to go, Martin Payroll was just talking about the bailiffs and, the paucity of those numbers. The Chief Justice herself spoke about officials, some of whom do certain things that ought not to be done in the administration of justice. She has her own points on them. How feasible are they? How quickly can these be brought to bear? Because we already know some of those challenges. What is your take on that?
Thank you. I believe that, yes, there are challenges, but they are clearly solvable. First of all, for me, yesterday's launch is an indication to all of us, the stakeholders within the judicial system, that this is what we aspire our judicial system to be. And so for bailiffs and other incidental officers related to the judicial system, there is no more now excuse. Now we have an idea what the ideal system will be. And of course, thankfully, the Chief Justice has also taken the initiative. We talk about the paralegal training. So it is time that all of us unlearn and relearn. And so it is no excuse now to say that I do not, first of all, know what it means to be a bailiff within the ideal system that we are promoting. It is no longer the excuse to be lax, as the system, through the Chief Justice's initiatives, is giving paralegal and other training to make people fit for purpose. So it will take a lot, but of course now we are all psyched and sensitized that there is more that can be done. So for all the paralegal officers, it is now an admonition to all of us. And I believe that if those people are not working, once all the available training and resources have been made, then they have to go and other people have to come in. And so for me, I think now, previously, people could ride on ignorance and that we don't know what we expected to do, or we don't have the training capacity or resources to do what we expected to do. By this leading initiatives project, there is no more now excuse for some of these officers. And I believe that the axe will fall where it has to be. And thankfully, we all agree that those persons who are inefficient have to go to give way for a system that we all aspire for. Thank you.
Staying on the standpoint of the officials, there's also the issue of jurors, some of whom will be, at post, so to speak, for long periods of time. She says she's going to change that. What essentially will that change in the dispensation of justice?
Thank you. So related to that, I believe my boss, the Honorable Attorney General, also offered some steps that the Office of the Attorney General had taken. And it is that we have pending a criminal procedure amendment bill in Parliament, which also tackles the same issue of jurors. Now, we have, as you indicated, I learned even yesterday that some have been jurors, are professional jurors for about 13 years and so, which shouldn't be the case. And normally, so the bill in Parliament seeks to, as it were, reduce the time spent through trial by jurors, and then also ensure that where there is a death or the absence of a juror, it does not necessarily mean that the case has to start all over again. So the bill currently in Parliament takes a holistic view of particularly criminal trial by jurors. And I believe that we have to be true to ourselves. This juror system, perhaps we need to take a second look at it, whether the whole system or partially. And I believe that some of these excuses, I'm not saying some of these delays come from the trial by jury system. And so with the need to look at it holistically and solicit ideas on how we can make it effective, I believe that it will be a good chance for expediting trial within the criminal justice system. Again, like I mentioned, now all of us have been sensitized that, look, there is not going to be business as usual. If you are a juror and you realize that you are being the inhibition or the impediment to the smooth running of the justice system, now we are all watching, and hopefully there will be action that will be taken to eradicate all these impediments in the criminal justice, the general justice system of Ghana. Thank you.
Right. She mentioned she talked about transparency. Now, in the quest to achieving transparency, where do we draw the line between being transparent and overexposing the judiciary when it comes to her activities, her plan for ensuring that the judiciary is transparent with the public, citizens?
I do not see how there will be exposure of the judiciary in the exercise of the judicial function. Because clearly, except in limited cases, all judicial proceedings are supposed to be in public, except for a few, let's say, issues, divorce and matrimonial issues involving children. The standard rule is that judicial proceedings must be done in public. And so I do not see how that exposes, of course, if you're looking at other issues related to the justices in their personal functions, I can understand. But when it comes to judicial proceedings, I think the law rather calls for an openness, a transparency, in all the proceedings, of course. So I don't see that how that threatens the justices in the exercise of their judicial function.
All in all, we are hoping for a justicial system that is more effective, more efficient, and delivers justice. And only yesterday, also, I was interacting with the former Auditor General, Dr. Daniel. In fact, Daniel Yaudomelevo. I don't know why I'm adding a PhD to his name. And he made mention of the fact that one of the things he finds pretty curious is sometimes how the judiciary functions in determining cases. You know, in his instance, the response of the Apex Court did not come speedily enough. It took over a year, almost about 2 years, before there was any decision on that, by which time he had lost his office and he did not want to come back. Some would say it's the ordinary Ghanaian who lost out. I know of where you sit. I'm very conscious of where you sit. But how does all of this, in the end, how is it going to make the administration of justice better? And from where you sit, what can be done to make the Chief Justice's dreams come true in that regard? That's how we'll cap off the conversation.
Thank you. I think I've reiterated the point that before yesterday, a lot of us could rely on ignorance, that we did not know what is expected of all of us, various stakeholders, lawyers, litigants, judges, administrative officers of the court. But now we know. Now we can at least envision clearly or more substantially what the ideal justice system should be. And so for now, there is no substantial level of ignorance, I should say, and we all aspire, based on the initiatives that have been spelled out by the Chief Justice, for us to follow. There have been, I must say, some unfortunate incidents in the past concerning how the judicial system runs. There have been some remarkable achievements, but of course, we always aspire to do better and improve. I believe that we should not see this, as I've reiterated, this as the initiative of just the Chief Justice. She is leading it. I am always happy when Ghanaians, all of us, are sensitized and alert to what the ideal system should be. And when we are alert on that system, we should also be able to accept the good ones and accept that certain things must change, and it must change from all of us. And so yesterday, I realized that there was one particular question that was posed to the number of panelists who were in the video, and about what are the challenges of the justice delivery system. And all of us, going round all the panels, you find that the blame was laid at every single one of stakeholders. One said it was lawyers, sharp practice, and using all the legal shenanigans to, as it were, delay cases. Another said it's about some auctioneers can misconduct themselves and end up doing things that will be undone and set aside, and that gets us back to starting the whole process again. Some went on and said it could be the judges. Sometimes lawyers are ready, judges are not ready. Now, what is the point I'm making? The point I'm making is that it is not the initiative of the Chief Justice. He was only superintending it. But it is a responsibility of all of us litigants, and also even the general public, beyond just criticism. The Chief Justice was clear that it is also willing and ready to receive recommendations and proposals from all groups, from all support groups. And so I believe that from today, we all should be elated, as the Chief Justice is, that these initiatives have been specifically spelled out for us. Now we all, as various stakeholders, need to take them and run with it. Lawyers, the GBA should be up and doing, perhaps regulate more rigorously. The General Legal Counsel also on these sharp practices. Litigants, what are they doing to support the whole process? Can we resort to alternative dispute resolution instead of going through the strict litigation process, which then congests the courts? What about auctioneers? How are they conducting themselves? Surveyors, other experts within the court. And so I believe that I always like to push the idea that, please, this is an initiative that is only being led by the Honorable Chief Justice. Very remarkable one, commendable one. But it is an initiative that from today must be owned by each and every one of us. And in our various corners, we work towards achieving that ideal system that we aspire for. Thank you.
Although we are concluding, I do have one last question. You see, this leading justice system is anchored on a high use of technology. What are your immediate goals to ensure that you've solidified the foundation for this to take effect?
You mean the Office of the Attorney General or Diana Stabadapa?
Okay. If you know of the immediate goals, then do share with us to ensure that, this high dependency on technology to drive this leading justice system initiative.
Right. Again, I think some steps have been taken by the Chief Justice. And one thing, I wasn't surprised yesterday because I remember when I came into office as Deputy Attorney General, I remember she was in charge of the e-justice system within the Judiciary. Then she wasn't a Chief Justice. And I was very excited to hear that there's been collaboration with other groups like GIZ, which we also work closely with, Gali, and other organizations to ensure the implementation of the digitalization drive of the judiciary. As the Office of the Attorney General, we have always been part of that process. In fact, as I indicated, the e-justice system included a number of stakeholders, which included me representing the Attorney General. And so for us, the support as an office is not in doubt. So the e-justice, there are few challenges that I believe we need to polish out and tidy up. And I believe that we should gradually progress to a place where technology actually becomes the rule rather than the exception. And so, as my boss, the Honorable AG, stated, we, the office, are ever ready to support. I believe Martin is on the line. The lawyers are also ready to support the whole digitalization process. Thank you.
Diana, thank you very much for making the time to interact with us this morning. Any final words, Mr. Kwebu and Dr. Osai Kwapong? Mr. Kwebu.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Kaku. Yeah, it's good. As I said, for me, and you see, Diana reiterated it. It's good the Chief Justice has come out to engage the public. It's a huge step forward so that we can move our democracy forward. In England, they are doing the same. And after that, they've been ahead of us. They also got a lady Chief Justice later last year, was it in September, Lady Carr. Yeah, she's also been addressing the nation. Yeah, so it's not unique. For us, the conversation is good because if the judges are sheltered and they are not allowed to hear our feedback, we will not make progress. Like the way we say in Tree, near Ocha, Esreonim Senit, Chia, right? Near Ocha, Esa, right?
Yes. Ocha, Sanonim, and Chia.
Excellent. So it's good. Thank you. It's good that Chief Justice is engaging us. And let's give all the positive feedback and especially also the support, like Diana has mentioned. It's good.
Thank you, Mr. Kwebu. Final words, Dr. John Osai Kwapong.
Yeah, I'll go back and reiterate what I said in the beginning, that this couldn't have come at a better time, especially when you look at a lot of the democracy governance indices and what it is showing as some of the things that is pulling us back. Real quick, if you look at the most recent democracy report from the VDEM Institute, Ghana has lost, what I call a lost decade of liberal democracy, right? For a good 10 to 13 years, we were classified as a liberal democracy. Now we are being classified, as an electoral democracy. And part of that is protection of civil liberties and equality before the law. So I'm really, really happy that the Chief Justice is leading this initiative at this time, because I think it would go a long way to restore some of the challenges, but most especially the public perceptions of, our entire judicial system that is not at this, it's not enjoying its most positive perceptions at this time. So I really hope that this initiative gets all the support that it needs and is able to achieve all the things that it's being envisioned to be able to achieve. I think it will go a long way to strengthen, as she said, the delivery of justice.
We all look forward to that. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. You just heard speaking Dr. John Osai Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow. We also had Martin Kwebu, a lawyer and an anti-graft campaigner, together with Diana Asunaba Dapa. She's a Deputy Attorney General. Stay with us. There's a lot more still coming your way right here on the AM Show. We'll be right back.
It's been a swamped morning, wouldn't you say? From energy to the judiciary. Now let me tell you about UPSA Law School. I have the guest in the studio with me, and they'll tell us all about their reunion and say it's a dinner, homecoming dinner of a sort. My guests in the studio, who are the UPSA alumni executives, Alfred Eli Day, who's the president of UPSA Law School Alumni, Elvira Pelderi, who is the organizer of UPSA Law School, that's the alumni, and Sylvanus Bejra, head of publicity, again, UPSA Law School Alumni. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. How are we feeling today?
Very well. How about
Yeah.
you?
So what's happening at UPSA Law School Alumni? You have a homecoming and a dinner coming up. Do you want to tell me about this briefly?
Yes, thank you very much. And once again, thanks to your viewers as well. It's an awesome morning, like you said. So the UPSA Law School Alumni reunion is just the convergence of the various alumni groups that have completed the school. And we thought it wise that why not relive and recount the stories of old, feeling a bit nostalgia, coming home and to tell the memories of old, and then also to come and then share our experiences with the law school as a whole. So the homecoming started on Monday, and we've had some alumni come on campus to share the experiences, and also lecture halls have been open for them to also share some lectures as well with some of the students. So it's been an amazing time of lectures and then also sharing of experiences.
Okay. Elvira, how long have you been doing this? Is this the first, or is it the first time you're doing a homecoming for the alumni? Oh, okay.
This is the first time.
How do you feel about it?
We are so excited.
Yeah.
It will be amazing seeing our mates, because a lot of us, since we graduated, have not seen people, like a lot of people. So this would be a great opportunity for us to see our mates, our friends, and also to connect with each and every person who will be coming, to learn from the industry players who will be there, to make networks, have fun. We are just so excited for it.
Okay. Alfred, you're Alfred and you are Sylvanus.
Sylvanus.
Sylvanus, when is the dinner happening, and what activities have you had so far to mark this reunion and homecoming?
Okay, so the dinner is on the 12th of this month, just this Friday.
What time?
It starts at 6 p.m.
Okay.
But we'd have the red carpet starting from 5
Oh, there's red carpet.
Absolutely.
Am I invited?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And like the paradoxical nature of the theme that we have, it says that back to the future. And you ask yourself, can you actually go back to the future or you go back to the past? Just like Joy FM Old School Reunion you've been organizing over the years.
Right.
The purpose, like the president stated, is to ensure that we bring back all the people that we've been with all these years. Some of them are now lawyers, some are doing their masters in law, some are now students at Makola, some are doing different things, in various fields. And so the intent is that we want to bring them back and just have some level of reconnection, and also bring industry players along to help in one way or the other. Don't forget that these are the ecosystem that we feed on. No matter what, at the end of the day, the intention mostly is to become lawyers.
Right.
And we'll definitely find ourselves out there trying to work with some law firms. And so we want to connect these people for the purpose of social networking. And on the day, it is not just going to be a celebration or a homecoming. We are going to have some form of raising funds to helps, mostly some of the law students or persons who come to UPSA to study law, and they lack some fund. So we have an endowment fund to be launched on the day. Also, already we've had some students going back to the classroom to take some of the lessons and teach some of the students already. Also, we are...
Is that the lecture you talked about?
Yes, that he spoke about.
Okay, so it's the students who are teaching each other?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, just as part of the week celebration.
Right.
And this is the kind of excitement we want to create, the ethos that surround all these activities at what we are looking out for.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know these organizations, these events don't come cheap. So how are you funding this?
Okay,
Elvira,
so we are selling tickets. Yes, so a ticket goes for 200 cedis.
You have to add the only.
200
yes,
cedis.
only.
Only.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get tickets from the reception at the UPSA Law School, or you could get it from any of the executives, or my number Can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so 054-7810-436. 054-7810-436. Either you call me or you text me on WhatsApp to get your tickets. Please do so. It's going to be so exciting. Don't miss it.
And they should only call or text for tickets, right? Or
Yes,
they can
please.
call for other purposes.
For, just for that.
Just for that.
Yes,
right.
just for that.
To also add to the how we are financing, I think majority of the finances has also been catered for by the law school.
Okay.
So we've also had primary sources of funding, like the law school, and also we are also welcoming the public, other stakeholders to support this cause, because it's not easy trying to bring people together, especially when it comes with the cost. And so we still need a lot of support from other stakeholders, and so we are entreating all those who are able to support to reach out to the number that was given, so that they can also extend their support. So these are how we are supporting.
Funding. But who can attend? Just lawyers or just the past students of UPSA Law School?
Yeah, so...
Or is it open for the general public?
Yeah, so, we are creating an ecosystem where the students, the alumni, the industry players can come together to interact, create network. Okay. So the primary audience or primary target audience is the alumni. Okay. And then we extend it to the students. And then also some of you major stakeholders in this ecosystem as well are also invited.
Like who? Like media?
Media,
like brands?
Yes, brands as well, because one of the things that we fail to sometimes talk about is that the legal, and which is why we are here as the alumni, is to let them understand that it's not just about going to Makola and becoming just a lawyer. Yeah. You can also choose the policy space. You can also choose lecturing. So we are providing them with a myriads of opportunities that are available after your LLB. Some would want to be in the media space as well, because there are so many in the media space who just have their LLB and they are doing amazingly well in the media space. So we are bringing all of these stakeholders together for them to also have some sort of interaction with the alumni and the student. But we currently have some of our alumni even lecturing at the faculty as well. And so just a little emphasis. So it is the alumni teaching
the current students.
The current students.
Okay.
So this week.
Okay. I thought you said that students teaching each other. So okay, right. So the teachers are past.
Yes. So this is a homecoming week. So we have the alumni coming on campus to take the lectures during that week, just to integrate ourselves in the system and then familiarize ourselves, building that community with the students, so that they know that we are there for them in terms of mentorship, in terms of networking as well.
Right. Yeah. So come 12th of April, what should we expect, Elvira? If I buy a ticket for 200 cedis, what should I expect when I come, apart from the red carpet?
Okay, so we would have musical performances from our alumni who are in that space. Would also have a performance by other entertainment people who would be coming.
No spoilers, huh? Don't spoil it.
So come and see for yourself, yes. There will be lots of food to eat and drink, and of course, would have a great time partying.
Okay. I want to give you each 30 seconds to appeal to our audience to come and enjoy this event, starting with you, Alfred.
Well, sure. Thank you very much. So we want you to be here. This is a moment for us to relive the past, tell the memories of old, and to share our stories, our memories with the current students. So we entreat each and every one of you to be a part of this. This is how we build a strong and formidable union, association, and then a community. And so I cannot wait to meet you there. I cannot wait to share my experiences with you. Thank you.
Elvira?
Okay, so this event wouldn't take place, it wouldn't be so much as we are expecting it to be without you guys coming. So we are treating each and every single person, alumni from 2019 to 2023, each and every one of you, if you're in Ghana, you're in Accra, please make it a point to be there because everyone, we all miss each other. So please come and let us have fun, yeah.
Okay, so
Okay, so just like in the court when the lead judge reads the judgment and the other judges are supposed to say something, if they have nothing to say, they just say, I have nothing valuable
or you just
add.
Yes,
so I agree with all that they've said, but I must also add quickly that the guest of honor or the special guest of honor is going to be the Deputy AG, Attorney General.
Oh, we just spoke to her.
Okay. On your show. And apart from her, we are also having some, like we may keep mentioning, industry players and some special persons. And of course, we can't leave here without giving all the credit to the Dean of the Law School, UPSA, Professor Ernest Kofi Abochi.
Right.
He's been very instrumental and helpful in building UPSA Law School.
Professor Kofi Abochi.
Yes.
You know, every time I mention my name, they ask me if I know Professor Kofi Abochi. My name is Abochi. So perhaps if you give me a ticket, I'll come just to see him.
Oh.
Are you all lawyers?
No, we are not.
You're dressed like lawyers in, dark colors. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we are taught on campus. As students, you must live the profession. And so even as students, you must always be sharp. You must always be prim and proper, just so that you can reflect the industry that we so belong to.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I wish you the very best. And
Thank
then
you.
after the show, maybe you can drop me a ticket because I want to come for your red carpet.
Awesome.
This is UPSA Law School alumni organizing the homecoming. What's the theme or how do you call the event? What's the name of the event?
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Okay, so this is the Back to the Future dinner by UPSA Law School alumni. And you heard from the president of UPSA Law School alumni, Alfred Eli Day, Elvira Pelderi, who's the organizer, and then Sylvanus Bejra, who's the head of publicity. Right now, we'll take a break. When we return, we activate the phone lines for you to get interactive with us. Stay with me. Welcome back. This is the final leg of the AM show for today, Tuesday. And we're opening the phone lines for you to join the conversations. The phone lines are on your screens, 030-221-1691 or 1692, 030-221-1691 or 211-692. Call us and tell us what's been on your mind if you've been following the conversations from Power to Judiciary to UPSA. There is something we're beginning on the AM show today. It's called Photo of the Day. And in a bit, we'll show you what that photo of the day is. But, it's time now for you to call us. Benjamin, how was today?
Oh,
I'd like to ask you, how was today? Because
today,
you give me your highlights.
Well, those are the highlights you've mentioned already. I didn't know I'd called in already, but...
Okay.
It's been interesting sharing thoughts on some of the matters we've had to talk about, especially for me, the power situation. It's crucial, and I find it a bit, I'll not use that word.
Upsetting?
Not just upsetting. The word I was using was more acerbic, but I feel we're not being honest. Totally honest with the situation. No one is laying all the blame at the doorstep of maybe the energy minister or the ministry or the ECG or all the others in the value chain. But there's a paucity of honesty, and it's excruciatingly annoying. Annoying. I was telling you about that colleague of ours this morning whom I had spoken to, slept through the darkness, came. You come to work and your state of mind is because why is shit? It's not a pleasant situation.
Remember yesterday
We don't care. We don't care. I know.
Because I didn't have lights.
We don't care what is going on. We are citizens. We pay our taxes. Give us light. Give us light. We mustn't beg you for that. Give us light. Especially when you campaigned on the back of that. We shouldn't be where we are. But we have a call on the line. Hello, good morning.
Kojo from Akashi.
Hello, Kojo. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
What are your thoughts for us this morning?
Okay, my thought is about the judiciary. I came to Ghana and I've been to several courts, and I noticed that there are a lot of corruption in the judiciary, especially some judges. So the Chief Justice move, I like it, but I will appreciate it if she can go do much about the corruption in the judiciary. Some judges, when you hear their comments, you can see clearly that no, this judge, she has some interest in this matter. So I just want to throw that across. Thank you.
Before you go, though, Kwadwo, I just want to find out, this corruption you speak of, have you known of it or experienced it firsthand, or is it just hearsay?
Pardon?
The corruption in the judiciary that you just spoke of, have you experienced it firsthand, or is it hearsay?
Oh, yes, I've experienced it firsthand.
All right.
I wanted even to forward my complaint to the Chief Justice, but my lawyer said, no, don't do that, and then it will go on the news and all that.
I see. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Interesting comments in there, Kwadwo from Akachi. Anyway.
I thought the semantics of it, if I want to be mischievous, she didn't say she was going to fight corruption. She wanted to change the tag of corruption and ineptitude. That part of the speech, it says to change the tag. And then she goes on to say reducing the human interface and all that. So, I mean, it's interesting that someone is calling to say that the Chief Justice has to do more than she's already proposed.
Well, changing the tag of corruption actually means stemming the tide of corruption.
How?
You can't change the tag. No, but the point is some of the things she's talking about. For example, when she talks about officials and the bottlenecks in the process and the human interface, she's talking about minimizing the avenues that allow people to be corrupt.
Right.
So, and you can't change the tag without fighting the illness.
So I would have thought that you fight it, and then in the course of fighting it, the tag automatically change. But that's just how I think. Yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
The phone lines are still active. You can call and let us know what's on your mind. 0302-211-691, extension 2. 0302-211-691, extension 2. We'll be gone in just about a minute. If you have a thought to share, we've had 2 already. This would be at the time to get it through. But right before we go, you made mention of that photo of the day. Maybe we can get to it.
The photo of the day is titled, "Disability is not inability," captured in Laura in the Upper West region. A photo by Caleb Mensah, the Caleb Mensah. And he says that this is how the children ran to welcome him when he heard there's a new photographer in town. So that's it on your screens, the photo of the day by the Caleb Mensah. Thank you so much for staying with us from 6 a.m. till now. We are grateful. And we are your hosts, Sweetie Abochi.
Benjamin Akakpo is my name, and it's been really good coming your way today. Let's look forward to tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll be less tired, more invigorated, and we'll always be here, no matter what, rain or shine, serving you the very best. Up next, Joy News Desk. Do stay.